Chapter 1496. The ninth sun Zhuowen's gaze was grave. His body, which was suspended in the air, suddenly twisted in an inconceivable manner. His right leg swept out like a whip. Rumble. Zhuan still used the laws of the void in this kick. With this kick, space collapsed. The two spinning blazing golden thunderbolts actually froze in the air. Collapse! Zhuowen roared, and the void collapsed again. However, the power of the second sun was much stronger than that of the first sun. It did not collapse in the collapsing void. Instead, it rampaged through the void, showing signs of breaking through the void. Looking at the two blazing golden thunderbolts that hadn't collapsed, Zhuan narrowed his eyes. He took a step forward. The laws of the void filled the bottom of his feet. As if he had teleported, he appeared above the blazing golden thunderbolts. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes abruptly opened. Icy blue and fiery red intertwined. He immediately activated the power of the Ice Sand Fire's sacred rune. Zhuowen pressed down with his right hand. The energy of ice and fire soared into the sky, condensing into a 10,000-meter-tall palace of ice and fire. It rumbled as if it was going to crush everything. What terrifying energy of ice and fire! This child can actually combine the laws of ice and fire so harmoniously? Chao Rong frowned slightly. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the palace. It should have been very difficult to combine the two extreme energies of ice and fire. However, Zhuowen was able to skillfully combine these two types of energy together. This caused Chao Rong to involuntarily recall a kind of supreme treasure. It shouldn't be that kind of thing. That's a treasure of the world. It's terrifying. It shouldn't only have this much power. This child probably cultivated some kind of special secret technique that can combine the laws of ice and fire to create even more powerful energy. Chao Rong shook his head and laughed at himself. He completely dismissed the idea that had suddenly popped up in his mind. Such a treasure of the world was rare even in the Central Plains. Even if it existed, it would be in the hands of the various major factions. How could it possibly appear in the Eastern Plains? Boom boom boom. As the palace came crashing down, the two golden suns that were contained by the void were directly crushed by the palace of ice and fire. Hiss hiss hiss. This scene caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. The power of this 10,000 zhang palace was so terrifying that the second sun was directly crushed. Boom, boom. After crushing the second sun, a third sun descended from the sky, followed by a fourth sun, a fifth sun. Each sun had one more golden sun than the previous one. When the ninth sun was reached, the 9 golden suns in the sky would all descend. That power was enough to burn the sky and boil the sea. The Ice Fire Palace was extremely powerful, especially after Zhuan had learned how to use the Ice Fire Saint symbol. The power of the Ice Fire Palace he could control had reached an unprecedented level. Even the 7th sun was crushed by the Ice and Fire Palace. Furthermore, Zhuan was also very smart. Before the blazing sun golden lightning was destroyed, when its power was greatly suppressed by the Ice Fire Palace, he would jump into the blazing sun golden lightning and bathe his entire body in the tempering of the blazing sun golden lightning. As time passed, Zhuowen's holy body became more and more powerful under this silent tempering. It even showed signs of being reborn. I'm afraid that I'm not far from the great completion holy body. Feeling that his physique was constantly strengthening, Zhuan clenched his fists tightly. Suddenly, a crackling sound was heard. The terrifying power seemed to be able to crush the air. He has passed the 7th sun. This Zhuan is really amazing. The power of the 9 suns thunder tribulation was so terrifying that it attracted the attention of countless warriors in the 9th netherworld realm. Especially when they saw Zhuan shatter the 7th sun in a row, everyone was in an uproar. For these ordinary martialists, even the 1st sun was enough to crush them, let alone the 7th sun Sapphire Shore, and the other leaders of the 7 forces frowned. Obviously, they were not happy with this result. At the same time, they were secretly shocked. The 8th sun and the 9th sun's power will transform. This guy will definitely not be able to withstand it, Sapphire Shore said coldly. The other leaders of the 6 forces also nodded. Obviously, they agreed with Sapphire Shore. I wonder if Zhuowen will be able to pass the last two tribulations? Chao Rong narrowed his eyes and revealed a look of anticipation. Rumble. At this moment, 8 golden suns fell from the sky like 8 meteorites. Each of them was 80,000 feet long. The power of the 8th sun was much more terrifying than the 7th sun. Its power had almost undergone a qualitative change. The golden lightning spread across the sky like countless golden tentacles, almost reaching the area where the 9 nether realm was located. Many of the martial practitioners on the square stage were so shocked that they hurriedly left the square stage to avoid the golden lightning that was spreading towards them. Ah! Screams rang out continuously. Some warriors on the square platform of the 9th netherworld realm couldn't escape in time and were hit by the golden lightning. They were directly blown to smithereens. Seeing this scene, many ancient martial art practitioners hurriedly retreated. Just the golden lightning that was released had such terrifying destructive power. It was hard for them to imagine that if they faced the 8 golden suns head-on, they would probably be directly bombarded by the golden lightning. As for the leaders of the forces on the square platform, they unleashed a powerful defense and barely blocked the golden lightning. Although they managed to block it, they were barely able to do so. The 8th sun. Zhuan wasn't afraid. He held the 9-star 8-trigram spear in his hand and was surrounded by 3 profound saint artifacts. At the same time, he waved his right hand and the Ice Fire Palace directly bombarded the 8 golden suns. Boom! Boom! What shocked Zhuowen the most was that the terrifying Ice Fire Palace did not last long under the attack of the 8 blazing sun golden thunderbolts before it collapsed. How terrifying! Zhuowen was shocked. He knew better than anyone how powerful the Ice Fire Palace was. However, it had only lasted for a short while before collapsing under the power of the 8th sun. This was truly beyond his expectations. Countless golden lightning bolts spread out, attacking Zhuowen's body in a densely packed manner. Fortunately, Yuan was protected by 3 profound saint artifacts and the golden lightning didn't get close to him. However, as the 8 golden suns got closer, the golden lightning became denser and denser. It was as if there were no holes that they couldn't penetrate. The pressure on Zhuowen also became heavier. Dragon Subduing Fist. 9-star 8 trigrams diagram. Zhuowen didn't hold back and used the Dragon Subduing Fist and the 9-star 8 trigram spear skill, the 9-star 8 trigrams diagram. Countless dragon shadows appeared, and together with the 8 trigrams diagram that filled the sky, Zhuowen was shrouded in a layer of mysterious light. Boom! In the end, the 8 golden suns blasted Zhuowen's body and exploded. Countless golden lightnings surged and almost dyed the sky of the 9 nether platform into a golden sea. Boom! As the golden lightning gradually faded, a figure fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground, attracting everyone's attention. That's Zhuowen. The 8th sun actually made him look so miserable. When everyone saw the figure's appearance, there was an uproar. This was because Zhuowen was in an extremely sorry state at this moment. The 3 profound saint artifacts that were revolving around him had dimmed, and the saint aura on their surface was covered in dust. It was obvious that they had suffered heavy injuries in the collision earlier. On the other hand, Zhuowen wasn't in a good condition either. The clothes on his upper body were torn, revealing his muscular body. Cracks appeared on the surface of his body and red blood flowed out from the cracks, staining Zhuowen's body. It made him look like a man made of blood. The power of the 8th sun is so terrifying. Zhuowen coughed out a mouthful of blood. He supported his body and knelt on the ground with one knee. He was panting and his eyes were filled with shock. This was only the 8th sun. The 9 suns' lightning tribulation still had the most terrifying 9th sun. The 8th sun had already reduced him to such a state. If it was the 9th sun, Zhuowen could not imagine if he could withstand the bombardment of the 9th sun. At this moment, the powerful recovery power of his saint body was constantly healing the cracks on his body. The blood that was flowing out also began to stop forming scabs under the effect of the recovery power. At the same time, Yuan took out a porcelain bottle from his spirit ring and poured the immortal elixir inside into his mouth. There was an elixir room in the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen took out many top-grade immortal elixirs from there. This time, he put a kind of top-grade immortal elixir into his mouth. After swallowing the whole bottle of top-grade immortal elixir, Yuan immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and began to refine the surging medicinal power. The injuries on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. That's an immortal elixir, and its quality is not low. This little bastard is really rich. He must have gotten it from the immortal saint weapon. Sapphire Shore's eyes were sharp. He immediately recognized the immortal elixir in Zhuowen's porcelain bottle. His eyes were filled with greed. Not only Sapphire Shore, but the undying old monster and the others also had burning eyes and were ready to make a move. The 9th sun is about to arrive. This kid will definitely die. Sapphire Shore was full of confidence. If the 8th sun could make Zhuowen look so miserable, then the most terrifying 9th sun would probably be able to blast Zhuowen into pieces. It's the last tribulation. I wonder if Zhuowen will be able to survive this tribulation? Everyone in the Fine God Institute began to worry for Zhuowen. Woody, who was beside the palace master of the Demon God Palace, clenched her fists tightly. Her palms were sweating. Rumble. Under everyone's gazes, the 9 golden thunderbolts at the bottom of the tribulation clouds bloomed with earth-shattering golden light. Then, they sank with a rumble. As the 9th sun sank, the entire 9 nether sky began to tremble. The tremors became more and more intense. The 9 nether sky platform and the entire 9 nether realm began to tremble. It was as if it would collapse at any time. All the living beings in the 9 nether realm began to worry. Obviously, the power of the 9th sun was beyond everyone's expectations. Even the 9 nether realm was affected. Chapter 1497. 5-clawed golden dragon rumble. The 9th sun slowly sank, and the terrifying pressure seemed to want to crush the entire 9 nether sky. The vast 9 nether sky platform trembled violently under the 9 blazing golden lightning suns. It was on the verge of collapse. Standing on the platform, Chao Rong's eyes narrowed slightly. The saint energy on the surface of his body seemed to have substance as it spread around his body, turning into a dazzling golden armor. It was dazzling, and it resisted the terrifying pressure. The 9th sun is really terrifying. I wonder how this child will deal with it? Chao Rongwei turned his head and his gaze landed on the figure sitting cross-legged on the ground, still recuperating from his injuries. His eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. The 9-sun lightning tribulation was the final tribulation. If Zhuowen passed it, he would undergo the final transformation and become a peerless saint. If he could not pass it, he would turn into insignificant dust and be annihilated from the world. At this moment, on the 9 square platforms that were derived from the 9 directions of the 9 nether sky platform, many cultivators had retreated into their respective 9 nether realms. Those who remained were the powerful forces and saint experts in their respective nether realms. Zhuowen slowly stood up. At this moment, his naked and muscular upper body was covered with dense golden veins, as if countless golden worms were crawling on his body. His gaze, icy blue and fiery red intertwined, bursting forth with a strange and unfathomable light. It passed through the restrictions of the 9 nether sky platform and landed on the 9 blazing golden lightning suns that were 90,000 feet tall. When the 9th sun landed on the 9 nether sky platform, countless spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the surface of the 9 nether sky platform. Even the restrictions on the surface of the 9 nether sky platform can't withstand the terrifying power of the 9th sun. This scene caused many cultivators to widen their eyes in disbelief. The power of the first 8 suns was already terrifying enough, but they were unable to threaten the restrictions of the 9 nether sky platform. However, the moment the 9th sun landed on the sky platform, it actually shattered the restrictions on the surface of the sky platform. What kind of terrifying power was this to be able to cause such shocking destruction? Sapphire Shore, Undying Old Monster, and Wu Ho's 7 people were all ecstatic. Previously, they did not dare to act rashly because of the restrictions on the 9th underworld sky platform. Right now, the power of the 9th sun was vast and mighty, almost crushing the restrictions of the 9 underworld sky platform. They could directly enter the sky platform and capture Zhuowen. Crack! In the end, the ninth underworld sky platform's restrictions crumbled under the pressure of the ninth sun, and the ninth sun continued to fall without slowing down. Hall Master Qing, the restriction has been broken. Should we go in directly? Wu Ho's eyes flickered, and suddenly looked towards Sapphire Shore, revealing an inquiring look. Not only Wu Ho, the other 5 leaders also stared at Sapphire Shore. Let's wait for a moment. The power of the ninth sun is too terrifying. This kid hasn't gone through his tribulation yet, so it's definitely inappropriate for us to go in. We'll wait until this kid starts to get tired of dealing with it. Then we'll rush in and kill him. We'll refine his soul and take his spirit ring, said Sapphire Shore in a sinister tone. We have to be wary of that Sapphire Shore. On the Divine Spectre Realm side, Yanji's gaze fell on Sapphire Shore and the others. He took a step forward and brought Jiang Xian and Wen Bai to a place not far from Sapphire Shore and the others. Not only Yanji, but Zhao Jun of the Demon God Palace also brought 2 demon saints of the Demon God Palace and landed beside Yanji. Her beautiful eyes stared warily at Sapphire Shore and the others. Yanji, Zhao Jun, what's the meaning of this? Said Sapphire Shore in a sinister tone, his gaze cold. Sapphire Shore, now that the restrictions of the 9 underworld sky platform have been broken, I think you'd better not act rashly, said Yanji coldly. The 2 of you really don't know what's good for you. Yanji and Zhao Jun, the 2 of you can't stop the people that I, Sapphire Shore, want to kill. Sapphire Shore threw his head back and laughed. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, 9 figures with majestic auras leaped out from the square platform of the Dragon Spectre realm. Saints, 9 saints. Feeling the terrifying auras of the 9 figures, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that there would be 9 saints in the Blue Dragon Hall. Including Sapphire Shore, wouldn't there be 10 saints? The number of saints here was 3 times more than the number of saints in the Divine Spectre Academy. 9 saints dragon formation. Qing Yuan indifferently spat out these words. The 9 saints that flew out from the square platform of the Dragon Wasteland each took out a jade slip with their right hand and crushed it in unison. 9 dragon roars rang out from the jade slip. Then, the Saint Qi of the 9 people began to surge out crazily, connecting with each other in a strange way. In the end, it turned into a huge golden dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long. This huge golden dragon was lifelike. Its 4 dragon claws were as big as mountains, and each dragon claw had 5 claws. 9th grade dragon soul 5-clawed golden dragon? Yanji frowned as he stared at the 5-clawed golden dragon formed by the Saint Qi of the 9 saints. The 5-clawed golden dragon was very famous. It was the 9th grade dragon soul of a peerless Ryuka patriarch from 10,000 years ago. Its power was extremely terrifying. He didn't know how Sapphire Shore got his hands on such a 9th grade dragon soul and used some kind of secret method to make the 9 saints activate it. You're right. This is the 9th grade dragon soul 5-clawed golden dragon. It was extracted from Qing Longzi's body to form the dragon soul array. Its power is much stronger than Qing Longzi's own materialization. Sapphire Shore laughed. Yanji's eyes narrowed. No wonder Qing Longzi didn't release his dragon soul during the battle. It turned out that Sapphire Shore had extracted it and made it into the dragon soul array. This green jade Shore was really ruthless. He actually did an experiment on the genius he had nurtured and extracted the dragon soul from him. However, what Qing Yuan said was indeed correct. This dragon soul grand array was indeed very powerful. Moreover, Yanji could faintly feel that the might of this dragon soul grand array could completely increase as the strength of the martial artist presiding over the grand array increased. The failure rate of extracting the dragon soul of a warrior without permission should be very high, right? You actually dared to experiment on Qing Longzi. Aren't you afraid of failure? Yanji frowned. Qing Yuan instead laughed out loud and said, For 10,000 years, our Azure Dragon Hall has always been looking for the descendants of the Long family. The number of Long family descendants that we've captured is at least several thousand, if not several tens of thousands. Do you think that our Azure Dragon Hall has only killed these Long family descendants? Hearing this, Yanji's eyes narrowed and said, "You're experimenting on the extraction of dragon souls on those Ryuka descendants?" Thanks to those descendants of the Long family, we have finally obtained the correct method of extracting the dragon soul after thousands of years of experimentation. Moreover, the failure rate is not high. Otherwise, do you think I would casually experiment on Qing Longzi? Qin Yuan said indifferently. Yanji and Zhao Jun looked at each other and felt their hair stand on end. Sapphire Shore had hidden too deeply. He was actually secretly experimenting on the extraction of dragon souls. Hee, to be honest, you all think that my dragon soul is an 8th grade dragon soul, but it's actually a 9th grade dragon soul. When I was experimenting on the extraction method, there was naturally some success rate. Those dragon souls that were successfully extracted were all devoured by my dragon soul. Therefore, my dragon soul went from an 8th grade dragon soul to a 9th grade dragon soul. At this point, Sapphire Shore licked his lips and revealed a cruel look. Enough nonsense. 5-clawed golden dragon, kill Yanji and Zhao Jun for me. With that, Sapphire Shore pointed with his right hand. Suddenly, the huge 5-clawed golden dragon roared and flew through the air. A dragon claw slashed through the air, and wherever it passed, the space collapsed. Yanji's face changed slightly. 3 blazing suns flew out of his body, and the law of light was pushed to the extreme. He even took out the profound saint artifact, dazzling light token. Jiang Xian and Wenbai followed closely behind Yanji, each of them releasing a powerful saint energy to block the attack of the 5-clawed golden dragon. Boom! As the claw slammed down, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Yanji and the other 2 grunted and were directly thrown back thousands of feet. This 5-clawed golden dragon is terrifying? Everyone was shocked, and even Zhao Jun was in disbelief. After forcing Yanji and the other 2 to retreat, the 5-clawed golden dragon attacked again. "Let me help you." Zhao Jun stepped forward and brought 2 beast saints to help Yanji. For a moment, the battle between the 6 sages and the 5-clawed golden dragon caused the sky to darken. The sun and moon lost their light, and the saint aura was vast and mighty. Yanji, Zhao Jun, and 4 profound sages joined forces, but they still can't suppress this 5-clawed golden dragon. Isn't this power too terrifying? This holy war shocked many martial artists, and they became more and more afraid of the 5-clawed golden dragon. After all, this 5-clawed golden dragon formation was formed by 9 sages. Everyone, return to the divine specter realm first and close the entrance. On the square platform of the divine specter realm, Yang Yi ordered the people behind him. Everyone knew the seriousness of the matter. The battle between sages was terrifying, and if they were not careful, they might directly die. To be safe, they naturally hid in the divine specter realm. Not only the divine specter realm, but many martial artists of the other 8 divine specters also retreated into the divine specter realm and used their divine abilities to observe the situation in the 9 nether heaven. Everyone knew that something big was about to happen. With the conflict between Zhuowen and the Blue Dragon Hall, there might be an earth-shattering battle. Perhaps, Zhuan would once again take out his immortal sacred artifact in this battle. "Eldest senior brother, I'm going to help Zhuowen. Can you send me over?" Jianmu suddenly asked Yang. Yang Yi took a deep look at Jianmu and finally nodded. "Don't stay for too long. The 9th sun will descend soon. With your half-sage strength, you won't be able to withstand such a tribulation." "I know." Jianmu nodded with a cold gaze. "Go," Yang Yi said, and put his right hand on Jianmu's shoulder. Then the space beside Jianmu suddenly shattered, and Jianmu directly stepped into the void. When Jianmu reappeared, he had already landed in front of Zhuan. "Jianmu." At this moment, Zhuowen, who had originally focused all his attention on the 9th sun, stared at Jianmu with narrowed eyes. "Zhuowen, your dragon soul should be about to transform successfully. Take these 9 golden patterns. I wish you a smooth breakthrough." Jianmu was expressionless. He tapped his forehead with his right hand, and the 9 golden patterns were extracted. With a whoosh, they entered Zhuowen's body. Chapter 1498. The plan. The 9 golden patterns drilled into Zhuowen's glabella. Immediately, the cracks on the golden cocoon in his sea of consciousness spread faster, as if the cocoon could burst at any time. Is that the void law? Zhuon stared at Jian Mu, who had disappeared into the void. His eyes narrowed as he revealed a bewildered expression. He himself had mastered the void law. Just now, Jian Mu had broken through the void and left. The void law contained within was extremely dense. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's gaze pierced through the void and landed on the square platform of the divine specter realm. There, Jian Mu had broken through the void and descended, while Yang Yi was standing alone on the square platform. The void law was cast by Yang Yi. Zhuowen's eyes were like torches. He could tell at a glance that the owner of the void law was Yang Yi, who was standing on the square platform. From the beginning to the end, Yang Yi was extremely mysterious in Zhuowen's eyes. Even though Zhuowen was about to become a saint, he still couldn't see through Yang Yi. Don't think too much. Hurry up and help Xiaohei. Once Xiaohei breaks out of the cocoon, your path to becoming a saint will be unimpeded. Even Xiaohei will be of great help to you. Cheng Huang shouted in his mind, causing Zhuowen to immediately wake up. Saint luck. Zhuowen came back to his senses and began to try his best to absorb the saint luck that Jian Mu had given him. The golden patterns between his brows showed signs of expanding again, from 32 to 35. It's about to burst. When the golden pattern reached the 35th mark, the golden cocoon cracked open, and a terrifying pressure leaked out of it. It's too late. The 9th sun is about to descend, Cheng Huang shouted anxiously. Cheng Huang shouted anxiously while a wisp of cold sweat flowed down Zhuowen's forehead. After that, he gritted his teeth and suddenly withdrew an immortal pill that flickered with golden light from his spirit ring. This is the last golden core of the great sage. Hopefully, it can speed up the process of Xiaohei breaking out of the cocoon. It was none other than the supreme grade Great Sage Golden Pill. Zhuon had obtained 3 Great Sage Golden Pills from the 4th level of the pill room. He had given one to Long Xiaotian, used one previously, and now the last one came in handy. After Zhuowen swallowed the Great Sage Aurous Core, the cocoon floating in his sea of consciousness shattered at a speed that was several times faster than before. In fact, it was dozens of times faster. Crack, crack. In the blink of an eye, the cocoon broke completely and a black ray of light that could blot out the sun shot out from the cocoon and formed a black pillar of light that connected the sky and the earth behind Zhuowen's head. A deafening dragon roar erupted from Zhuo Jingwen's body, shaking the heavens and the earth and shaking the souls of everyone present. Many cultivators covered their ears in pain when they heard the terrifying dragon roar. They were horrified. Just the dragon roar alone was so terrifying. They wondered how powerful the owner of the dragon roar was. Zhuowen's dragon soul seems to have undergone a transformation. It looks like he's really going to break through. However, the 9th sun has already descended. Chao Rong took a step forward and jumped off the platform. He hovered in the air not far from the 9th underworld sky platform and looked down at Zhuon, who was about to receive the 9th sun. The 9th sun's power was terrifying. Although he could completely destroy it, he would have to pay a hefty price. He couldn't pay such a price just to help Zhuon. Xiaohei! The dragon roar grew louder and louder. Zhuon leaped up and a black ray of light shot out from between his eyebrows. A huge black dragon that was 100,000 feet long suddenly appeared in the air. Rumble! The huge dragon was so huge that it swung its tail and slammed into the ground of the 9th underworld sky platform. The 9th underworld sky platform shook violently and crumbled into dust. The 9th underworld sky platform was shattered. Is this Zhuowen's dragon soul? It's so powerful. The 9th underworld sky platform shattered into countless pieces and floated above the 9th underworld sky, turning into a stream of rocks. It was a spectacular sight. This fellow's dragon soul isn't simple. Is it really a 9th grade dragon soul? Sapphire Shore frowned slightly and stared at the huge black dragon with a strange expression. It was the first time he had seen such a huge dragon. Even if it was a 9th grade dragon soul, it was rare to see such a huge dragon. Boom! The black dragon had 6 wings. When it spread its wings, It covered the sky and directly slammed into the 9 golden thunderbolts. Countless bolts of golden lightning spread across the sky, dyeing the entire sky a golden color. The 9,000 feet golden thunderbolts formed a ring-shaped sea of golden thunderbolts that was comparable to the black dragon's body. It could even be said that its power was even more terrifying. The black dragon's power was indeed terrifying. However, under the bombardment of the golden thunderbolts, it gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. The 9th sun is so terrifying. After Xiao Hei's transformation, she's actually suppressed? Zhuan was shocked. When he had advanced to the Emperor realm, Xiao Hei's materialization was already 100,000 feet. Now that he had reached the Sage realm, Xiao Hei had transformed into 100,000 feet. Regardless of whether it was her aura or strength, she was much more terrifying than before. Even so, she was still at a disadvantage under the 9th sun. Don't worry about me. I can totally deal with the 9th sun. I'm just putting on an act for Sapphire Shore. Suddenly, a voice sounded and Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. It was Xiao Hei's voice. You, what's your plan? Zhuowen replied in a low voice. Of course. Now, it's not just the Blue Dragon Hall. The Undying Altar, Desolate Island, 100 Flowers Park, St. Martial Sect, Yaksha Sea, and the League of Assassins are also after your death. These guys want your immortal saint weapon and your life. Are you going to let them go? Xiao Hei said coldly. Of course not. Those who want to kill me must all die. Zhuowen said coldly. That's right. Now lure them over. Do your best to lure them over and then annihilate them all. At this point, Xiao Hei's dragon eyes flashed with a cold light. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He knew what Xiao Hei meant. Now, Sapphire Shore and the others couldn't wait to kill Zhuowen. It could be said that the current Zhuowen was the best bait for Sapphire Shore and the others. Once they were lured over, he and Xiao Hei would join hands and kill them all. Moreover, Xiao Hei was so confident. Zhuowen knew that it must have more strength. It might have more powerful trump cards. Hall Master Qing, this kid's dragon soul is not simple. It can actually block the 9th sun. This is a good opportunity. While his dragon soul is in a stalemate with the 9th sun, we can kill this kid. Wu Hou hurriedly suggested to Qing Yuan, killing intent bursting forth from his eyes. He was eager to give it a try, wishing that he could charge in right now and kill Zhuowen. Sapphire Shore frowned slightly. He felt that something was wrong. His eyes flickered, and he subconsciously glanced at the depths of the 9 nether tribulation clouds. He pondered for a moment. Hall Master Qing, what do you think? Undying Old Monster and the others also looked at Sapphire Shore. They couldn't help but want to kill Zhuowen, this little bastard. Sapphire Shore, old dog, and you bunch of little dogs. Weren't you clamoring to kill me just now? Now that I am about to become a saint, are you all so scared that you don't dare to come? Just as Sapphire Shore was hesitating, Yun took the initiative. He stood in the void and shouted arrogantly. His words were extremely unpleasant to the ears. The faces of Qing Yuan and the others instantly turned green when they heard Zhuowen call them old dogs and little dogs. They were the dignified overlords of the various nether realms, yet they were being insulted by a junior like this. It truly infuriated them. This kid deserves to die. Wu Hou was so angry that his teeth itched. He took a step forward, and a 10,000 zhang tall Saint Martial image appeared behind him. It instantly descended above Zhuowen's head. Wu Hou bellowed and chopped down with his palm. It was as if the mountains and rivers were breaking apart, and the mountains and rivers were collapsing. Chapter 1499. Trapping the 6 Sages. Boom. The 6 sages joined forces, and their attacks even changed the color of heaven and earth. Countless cultivators in the 9 netherworld realm could clearly feel the terror of the 6 sage auras. Bang! A figure retreated step by step in the void, as if the space was about to shatter. It's Zhuowen? This kid didn't die under the joint attack of the 6 sages. He's only retreating. As they watched Zhuowen retreat step by step, the crowd exclaimed with disbelief in their eyes. The 6 sages were the rulers of the 6 netherworld realms, and they were all peak profound sages. If the 6 of them joined forces, they would be able to kill a profound sage of the same level, and could even fight against a sky sage. Again! Zhuan was like a ferocious beast. He stepped in the air, and the void law spread out. His entire body was like a slippery worm, escaping into the void again and again. The 6 sages' attacks were indeed terrifying, but Zhuan was too cunning. After falling into a disadvantage in the first collision, he didn't fight them head-on again. "Little brat, hiding, what kind of hero are you?" Wu Ho shouted angrily and blasted out his right palm. Zhuan escaped into the void again and dodged his attack. This scene made him gnash his teeth in anger, and he couldn't wait to catch Zhuan and tear him into pieces. Not only Wu Ho, but the undying old monster, by Mei Xing, Imperial Exterminator, Eternal Night Dark King, and Huang Mo were also extremely angry, but they were also extremely helpless. Zhuan, who had mastered the void law, and the lightning wings formed by the wind and thunder sacred rune, was almost unparalleled in the world. Even if their cultivation was stronger than Zhuan, they still couldn't catch up to him. The Imperial Exterminator suddenly suggested, "The 6 of us are too few. We need to call more people. As long as there are more people, this kid won't be able to escape." Brother Imperial Exterminator is right. This time, he has mastered the void law. However, because he's undergoing the sage tribulation, there's still a certain range limit. We need to send more people in. As long as we delay this kid for a while, the 6 of us will kill him together, and he won't be able to escape. The undying old monster nodded, and his gaze fell on the other 4. The 4 of them nodded in agreement. "My League of Assassins still has 1 saint and 10 half-saints. My 100 Flowers Park also has 1 saint and 9 half-saints." The 6 of them communicated telepathically and quickly decided to send out their respective saints. The League of Assassins, 100 Flowers Park, Undying Sacred Altar, Desolate Island, and Yeksha Sea each had another saint, as well as many half-saints. Only the Sacred Martial Sect couldn't send another saint. After all, the great elder of the Sacred Martial Sect had been crippled by Zhuan. Therefore, the Sacred Martial Sect could only send out all the half-saints in the sect. The 6 of them were not sloppy people. They quickly summoned the saints and half-saints of their sections. In next to no time, numerous figures with terrifying auras flashed out from the Death Netherworld, Flower Netherworld, Martial Netherworld, Night Netherworld, Desolate Netherworld, and Slaughter Netherworld. There were around 70 to 80 people, 5 of whom were profound sages, and the rest were all half-sages. Such a lineup was extremely terrifying. Many of the martial warriors who were watching this battle in the 9 Netherworld realm were shocked. So many saints and half-saints. It seems that the 6 Netherworld realms are determined to kill this Zhuan. Many martial warriors discussed. "Hall Master Qing, come together and capture this Zhuan. If you are here, this kid will definitely die." Wu Ho turned his head and said to Sapphire Shore, who was not far away. At this moment, Sapphire Shore revealed a strange expression. He looked down at Wu Ho's group of 6 and the other experts they had sent. He smiled and said, "I'm coming. Hurry up and surround Zhuowen's area of activity." Wu Ho and the others didn't suspect anything. They all nodded and immediately ordered their subordinates to densely line up in the area surrounded by the 9th sun. This was because Zhuan could only move within this area and couldn't leave the range of the lightning tribulation. So 70 to 80 half-sages, plus 11 saints, had almost surrounded the entire range of the lightning tribulation. As long as Zhuan escaped out of the void, he would immediately encounter a few of them. As long as Zhuowen was held back by someone, the 11 sages would attack together and kill Zhuowen. In the air, Zhuan looked through the cracks and observed the traps set up by Wu Ho and the others. The corner of his mouth cracked open, revealing a cruel smile. "Since you're the one who delivered yourself to me, don't blame me for being impolite." After saying that, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Sapphire Shore, who was not far away, and frowned. He had a feeling that this Sapphire Shore seemed to be waiting for something. And be careful of this Sapphire Shore. Didn't this guy already cooperate with the Heavenly Worm? Maybe he's brewing some kind of conspiracy right now. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in Zhuowen's mind, causing Zhuowen's gaze to congeal. He began to pay attention to the sapphire shore. Not far from the ninth sun, the huge five-clawed golden dragon was locked in an intense battle with Yan Ji and the others. Fortunately, Yan Ji and Zhao Jun were not mediocre. Although they were at a disadvantage, they did not show any signs of defeat. Xiaohei, let's do it now. Since Sapphire Shore doesn't come in, then we'll take care of Wu Hou and the others first. In the end, Zhuan decided not to wait any longer. The power of the ninth sun was terrifying. Although Xiaohei was feigning civility, it still consumed a lot of origin energy. After killing these people, we'll find Sapphire Shore to settle the score. You come out first and lure them near me, Xiaohei said in a deep voice, roaring again and again. The huge dragon body retreated continuously, as if it was about to collapse under the ninth sun. This kid's dragon soul can't hold on any longer. Looks like he's about to fail in his breakthrough. Wu Hou, the Imperial Exterminator, and the others were delighted. A bunch of bastards. If you want to kill me, then come. If you have the guts, then kill me right here. Zhuan escaped from the void and shouted, then rushed toward Xiaohei. Stop him. Wu Hou shouted. The few sage-to-be who were closest to Zhuan turned into streaks of light and used their strongest attacks to block in front of Zhuan. But Zhuan was not afraid at all. The 9-star 8-trigram spear slashed out horizontally. Spear light filled the sky and pierced through the horizon. The few sage-to-be screamed and were torn apart, exploding into a bloody mist. After killing the sage-to-be in front of him, Zhuowen's momentum did not decrease, and he instantly rushed to Xiaohei. Wu Hou and the other 5 sage-to-be led by 5 sage-to-be and dozens of sage-to-be quickly surrounded Zhuan. Little bastard, you still want to escape? Let's see where you can escape to this time. Wu Hou, the undying old freak, and the other 5 immediately used their powerful abilities to seal the space within 100 zhang radius around Zhuowen. In this way, Zhuowen was utterly unable to flee into the void within an area of 300 m. Wu Hou, Undying Old Monster, by Mei Xing, Imperial Exterminator, Eternal Night Dark King, and Huang Mo, you are the rulers of your respective secluded realms, the strongest sage-to-be at the peak of the profound sage realm. Now that you have joined forces to deal with a junior who has yet to enter the Saint realm, don't you feel ashamed? Zhuowen said indifferently. The Imperial Exterminator sneered. Ashamed? You can only blame yourself for having an immortal saint artifact. You can only blame yourself for killing all our elite disciples in the 9 Underworld Assembly. You are courting death, and now you are blaming me? An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. You don't have the strength, and having an immortal saint artifact is a sin. Wu Hou sneered. If you know what's good for you, hand over the immortal saint artifact, and we may consider only crippling your cultivation and not taking your life. The undying old monster said. Looking at the ugly faces of Wu Hou and the other 5, Zhuan smiled, and his smile was extremely bright. Little bastard, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? Wu Hou's eyes were gloomy. He had been unhappy with Zhuowen for a long time, and now that he saw Zhuowen still smiling at death's door, he was naturally even more unhappy. Therefore, Wu Hou quickly made his move. He stepped into the void, and instantly swept in front of Zhuowen, and slammed his palm down, causing thousands of rainbow lights to erupt. Boom! However, the moment Wu Hou's right palm landed, a terrifying golden lightning that was as thick as a water bucket descended and struck his right palm. Poochie! In an instant, Wu Hou's palm exploded into a bloody mist, and Wu Hou retreated a few steps because of it. What is that? Wu Hou's right palm that had exploded was staring at the sky above Zhuan in shock. He saw that the 100,000 feet long black dragon was coldly staring at him with its pair of huge dragon eyes, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. It's time for you to have a taste of the 9th sun, Zhuan grinned, then leaped up and landed on Xiaohei's head. Then the void where Xiaohei was at collapsed. 1 man and 1 dragon directly disappeared into the void. Boom! The moment 1 man and 1 dragon disappeared, the 990,000 feet long blazing golden lightning, without Xiaohei's obstruction, immediately fell at an extremely fast speed, like falling meteorites. Wu Ho's expression changed greatly, and without thinking, he immediately fled. Not only Wu Ho, but the undying old monster, the Imperial Exterminator, and the other four also reacted immediately and used their movement techniques to escape. They finally knew why Zhuowen suddenly came out to provoke them. It turned out that it was to trick them. Run! When Wu Ho's group of 6 fled, the rest of the half-step saints and 5 profound sages also scattered and fled in all directions. However, the speed of the 70 to 80 half-step saints could not compare to the falling speed of the 9th sun, and they were quickly caught up. The golden lightning exploded, and miserable screams gathered together. One by one, the half-step saints could not withstand the terrifying power of the blazing golden lightning and were directly blown to pieces. The 6 of you should go in together. There's no need to escape. Wu Ho's group of 6 was very fast, and instantly escaped the edge of the 9th sun's lightning tribulation. Just as they were about to take a step and leave the range of the lightning tribulation, an indifferent voice came from in front of them. They saw Zhuowen standing on the black dragon, and the black dragon's huge dragon tail fiercely swung. Wherever it passed, countless astral winds swept up, and the space collapsed as it arrived in front of Wu Ho's group of 6. The power of this attack was too great. The 6 of them took out their profound sage artifacts to protect themselves, but they were still pushed back dozens of meters by this huge force. Chapter 1500. Profound Glimpse, Saint Realm, Block It. Wu Ho roared as he threw out a profound sage-grade halberd in his hand. It carried an earth-shattering force as it blasted towards the 9th sun lightning tribulation. Not only Wu Ho, but the undying old monster, Bai Mei Xing, and the other 4 also used all their skills. They joined forces and took out their respective profound saint artifacts, erupting with boundless saint aura. Under the power of the scorching golden lightning tribulation, the half-saints were annihilated and turned into dust. These half-saints were considered top experts in the various netherworld realms. But now, under the scorching golden lightning tribulation, they were like ants, unable to withstand a single blow. In the instant that Wu Ho's group of 6 set up their defenses, the other 5 saints that they had gathered all fled to where the 6 of them were in a sorry state. Come in, let's resist the attack of the scorching golden lightning tribulation together. The Imperial Exterminator roared, and the 5 saints hurriedly came over. The 11 of them joined forces, and their power was extremely terrifying. As for the rest of the half-saints, they were all dead, which made Wu Ho and the other 4 feel a faint pain in their hearts. The half-saints were the mainstays of their respective forces, and losing one was extremely painful. Now that they were all dead, it could be said to be a heavy loss. Boom, boom, boom. The scorching golden lightning tribulation fell in front of the 11 people, and a terrifying golden lightning burst out. Then, a rich golden light soared into the sky, and directly exploded. An invisible air wave spread out from the center of the 9 netherworld heaven. Under the influence of this air wave, the 9 netherworld realms trembled violently. When the golden lightning was completely annihilated, Zhuowen, who was standing proudly on the head of the black dragon, released a terrifying saint aura from his body. A series of dense crackling sounds came from his body. If one observed carefully, Zhuowen's aura was growing stronger, and it was an earth-shattering trend, constantly rising and erupting, straight into the sky. The 9 sun lightning tribulation has passed, and Zhuowen's cultivation has advanced to the void profound saint realm. However, this kid's aura is still growing. I'm afraid it's not as simple as just breaking through to the void profound saint realm. Countless martial artists in the 9 netherworld realm looked at Zhuowen, especially when they felt that his aura continued to rise. They were all shocked. Good preparation. This kid obtained so much saint luck before becoming a saint, and then experienced the terrifying 9 sun lightning tribulation. I'm afraid it's impossible for him to only reach the first profound sky profound saint realm. Chao Rong squinted his eyes, revealing a look of joy. Even he did not expect that Zhuowen would actually transfer the 9th sun's tribulation to Wu Ho and the others. Killing 70 or 80 half-saints in exchange for the end of the tribulation was unexpected. The second profound, Nirvana profound saint realm, break for me. Zhuan roared as his aura rose to a new height, reaching the second profound Nirvana profound saint stage. The saint force in his dantian was much purer than before. Zhuan had even integrated the karma law from his Buddhist clone and the Masha law from his demonic Tao clone into the saint energy in his dantian. The 7 laws converged harmoniously in his dantian, pushing Zhuowen's aura to its peak. This kid's aura is still rising. Could it be that he can break through to the third profound Nirvana profound saint stage? Everyone was astonished. Breaking through to the saint plane and advancing 3 levels in a row, although it was impossible to end it, it was already unprecedented. Boom. Sure enough, while everyone was guessing, Zhuowen's aura rose to a new level, breaking through to the profound Nirvana profound saint stage in one fell swoop. After reaching the profound Nirvana profound saint stage, Zhuowen's aura finally stopped rising and completely stabilized. At this moment, Zhuan revealed a look of surprise. He felt that his body was full of powerful energy, especially the saint energy in his dantian, which was much stronger than the Yuanli in the past. Moreover, the 7 precepts had been integrated into his saint energy. He had reached the point where he could command any one of the 7 precepts in his body with just a word. However, he was currently only in the profound sage realm, so the fusion between the power of law and the saint force was not particularly dense. If he advanced to the heavenly sage realm, the power of law would fuse with the saint force, and the power would become very terrifying. After Zhuan had completely advanced to the profound Nirvana profound saint stage, the last trace of golden lightning of the 9 suns lightning tribulation had completely disappeared. Under the golden lightning, 11 extremely miserable figures were suspended above the 9 nether sky. These 11 people were the 6 martial marquises, as well as the 5 saints sent by their respective forces. The auras of the 11 saints were extremely weak, and the profound saint artifacts on their bodies were almost dim. The surface of their bodies was covered with extremely tragic cracks, as if they would collapse at any time. Among them, the most miserable were the 5 saints. They were basically missing arms and legs, and the most miserable one had both his hands and feet crippled. Looking at the miserable state of the 11 saints, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. These were 11 saints. When had so many saints joined forces to fight in the 9 nether realm? It had never happened before. As expected of saints, even the 9th suns couldn't kill the 11 of them. Duowen's eyes narrowed, and he looked at the 11 saints that were in an extremely sorry state with slight surprise. He had personally experienced how powerful the 9th sun was. Even with his saint physique, he didn't dare to face the 9th sun head-on. Even Xiaohe, who had transformed into a huge dragon body, had consumed an extremely large amount of origin energy to barely block the 9th sun. Moreover, it was only temporary, in order to lure Marshal Marquis and the others over. Saints have almost reached the point where they have the same lifespan as heaven and earth, and their saint energy is above all other energies. They are not so easy to kill. Xiaohe transmitted her voice. Zhuan nodded slightly and said, "Since the 9th sun didn't kill them, then let me handle the rest of the killing mission." After saying that, Zhuan stomped his feet and rushed towards the 11 saints like an arrow leaving the bow. Marshal Marquis and the other 5 were shocked and angry. They all roared and cursed Zhuan, "Little bastard." Although the 6 of them were all peak profound sages, they had also suffered extremely serious injuries. As for the 5 profound sages with lower cultivation, their injuries were even more serious and terrifying. Some of them had their arms and legs broken, and even their bodies weren't intact. This little bastard. Seeing Zhuan rushing straight towards them, Marshal Marquis and the others revealed a look of fear. They could all feel the vast and surging saint aura on Zhuowen's body. Moreover, this aura wasn't the void profound saint realm that had just entered the saint realm, but the glimpse profound saint realm that had reached the 3rd profound realm. This little bastard broke through to the saint realm and immediately reached the 3rd profound realm, the glimpse profound saint realm. The 6 of them were shocked. Zhuowen's breakthrough was too fast. He had advanced to the glimpse profound saint realm all of a sudden. It was really terrifying. At this moment, Zhuowen's Saint Might was vast and mighty, and the aura of the glimpse profound Saint Realm burst out. Even the surrounding space was distorted, causing the faces of Martial Marquis and the others to change greatly. Boom. However, the moment Zhuowen was about to arrive in front of Martial Marquis and the others, a terrifying gale suddenly swept over and heavily blasted towards Zhuowen's face. Boom. Zhuowen blasted out a punch. The power of the Saint Force and the Saint Physique intertwined, bringing along a supreme fist pressure and a burst of explosive sounds. Dang dang dang. Zhuowen groaned and retreated dozens of steps. Then, a green figure landed in front of Martial Marquis and the others. Old Dog Qing? Zhuowen retreated a few steps. His gaze fell on the green figure in front of him and couldn't help but whisper. This sentence immediately caused Sapphire Shore's face to turn a little purple. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Chun. Palace Master Qing, this kid is too arrogant. Capture him and tear him into pieces. The undying old monster hurriedly said to Sapphire Shore. This time, Nguyen had caused them to suffer miserably. This time, almost all of the half-saints of their major forces had died. This enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. Even the other 5 profound sages had suffered extremely heavy injuries. If they wanted to recover, they would need a lot of resources and time. The 6 of you can rest assured. This kid will definitely die. If you have any last words, feel free to say them to me. Otherwise, you won't have the chance later. Sapphire Shore stood with his hands behind his back, facing the wind. His messy hair fluttered in the wind as his indifferent voice spread out in the surroundings. Martial Marquis, the undying old monster, by Mei Xing, the imperial exterminator, Huang Mo, and the eternal night underworld king fell into silence. They stared at Sapphire Shore with strange gazes. They didn't quite understand what Sapphire Shore meant. Even Zhuowen stared at Sapphire Shore with a strange gaze. He didn't quite understand what Sapphire Shore meant. Hall Master Qing, what do you mean? We don't quite understand. Martial Marquis stood up, frowning as he stared at Sapphire Shore's back and said with a smile. Hee, Brother Martial Marquis, you'll know soon enough. Sapphire Shore turned his head and stared at Martial Marquis, the corner of his mouth revealing a sinister smile. Poochie. Just as Sapphire Shore's voice fell, a sharp black tentacle suddenly pierced through Sapphire Shore's back, ruthlessly piercing through him. Sage blood gushed out from Martial Marquis' chest, turning into a rain of blood in the 9 nether heaven. Silence. The entire 9 nether heaven became incomparably quiet. Everyone's gazes were staring at Martial Marquis, who had been pierced through by the black tentacle. For a moment, no one was able to react to the current situation. They didn't even expect that a black tentacle would suddenly drill out and pierce through Martial Marquis' body. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at the tentacle that had pierced through Martial Marquis. His face was as cold as a blade. He was too familiar with this aura. His gaze followed the end of the tentacle, only to see the tentacle heading towards the depths of the 9 nether heaven. There was a black shadow that was as black as ink. It was impossible to see the true appearance of the black shadow. So. The moment Martial Marquis was pierced through, another black tentacle shot out from the black shadow. Like black arrows, it shot towards the other 10 saints who were heavily injured. Scram! Undying old monster roared as the law of death revolved around his body. A large blade of death slashed out, cutting off the surrounding tentacles as he hurriedly fled. The Imperial Exterminator used his assassination technique and blended into the darkness, silently planning to leave. Bai Mei Xing was surrounded by 100 flowers, countless petals shot out like hidden weapons, blocking the countless tentacles. Chapter 1501. The Heavenly Worm appeared. Although the 5 Netherworld Realm experts were seriously injured, their means were not bad, and they managed to dodge the first wave of black tentacles. However, the other 5 saints, who were more seriously injured, were unable to resist at all. They were directly pierced by the countless black tentacles, and the saint force in their bodies was completely absorbed by the tentacles. What is this? Undying old monster, who had dodged the first wave of tentacles, looked at the 5 saints who had been sucked dry with lingering fear. Although the cultivation of the 5 saints was not high, they were still profound sages. Even if they were injured, the saint force in their bodies was still extremely vast. Yet, in the blink of an eye, they had been sucked dry. Hall Master Qing, what is the meaning of this? Bai Meisheng, the imperial exterminator, and the others stared at Sapphire Shore not far away with gloomy eyes. They were 100% sure that this matter had something to do with Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore laughed and said, "Brothers, don't you want to kill this n? Now, lend me a hand, and I will help you kill this boy. As long as you give me all your saint blood, it will be fine." Sapphire Shore, are you scheming against us? No wonder you didn't participate with us when we were dealing with that Zhuowen, and now you are using despicable means to plot against us. Not far away, Wu Ho, whose body had been pierced by many black tentacles, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Sapphire Shore in shock and anger, and angrily shouted, "Brother Wu Ho, don't worry, I will help you take revenge. When the time comes, I will make that Zhuowen wish he was dead." Sapphire Shore said slowly, and with a pinch of his right hand, Wu Ho suddenly screamed. The black tentacles that had pierced through Wu Ho's body began to wriggle violently and let out an ear-piercing sucking sound. After Wu Ho screamed, he completely lost his aura, and the saint force and saint blood in his body were all sucked dry. This scene made the faces of the undying old monster, the imperial exterminator, and the other 4 extremely ugly. Wu Ho's strength was close to theirs, and they were all at the peak of the profound sage realm, but he had been sucked dry just like that. Just what was the origin of this tentacle? Skyworm's clone. Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the huge shadow in the sky as he shouted in shock and anger. He would never forget the Skyworm's aura. What shocked Zhuowen even more was that the Skyworm's aura was much stronger than it had been back in the Misery Sea. For it to be able to kill an ordinary profound sage with a casual blow, this damned thing's cultivation must have reached the terrifying level of a heaven sage. Zhuowen, be careful. This celestial insect probably has the strength of a sun-sky sacred realm expert. Coupled with its troublesome nature, even a sun-sky sacred realm expert wouldn't dare to fight it. Xiao Hei's huge body flew over and landed beside Zhuowen, her pair of dragon eyes solemnly staring at the deep and invincible shadow in the sky. Perhaps feeling Zhuowen and Xiao Hei's gazes, a terrifying pitch-black eye split open in the shadow and stared at Zhuowen and Xiao Hei, letting out a strange laugh. Bush, bush, bush. The moment Zhuowen shouted out the identity of the sky worm, the shadow suddenly burst out with endless tentacles that blotted out the sky, instantly covering the area where the undying old monster, the imperial exterminator, and the other 4 were. Miserable screams resounded one after another. Everyone knew that the undying old monster, the imperial exterminator, and the other 4 were most likely doomed. Skyworm? Chao Rong's face was somewhat gloomy. He first stared at the shadow, then at Sapphire Shore and said, "Sapphire Shore, you're really bold. You actually dared to connive with the Skyworm to kill the other masters of the Nether Realm." Sapphire Shore smiled faintly and said, "Lord Chao Rong, I didn't connive. It was the Skyworm who came out to look for food. It has nothing to do with me." "How dare you talk to me like that? I think you're tired of living. Don't you know how powerful the Primal Chaos Temple is?" Chao Rong's eyes were gloomy. He was vaguely annoyed by Sapphire Shore's somewhat disrespectful words. With the backing of the Primal Chaos Temple, who wouldn't speak to him respectfully and politely? However, the Sapphire Shore in front of him seemed to have changed into a different person. He even began to become somewhat fearless. This attitude made him somewhat displeased. Moreover, his main purpose of coming to the Eastern Lands this time was the Skyworm. Now that the Skyworm had appeared and was somewhat related to Sapphire Shore, he naturally had to properly question the Sapphire Shore. "Lord Chao Rong, you're mistaken. Do you know how powerful the Primal Chaos Temple is? I'm just a mere blue dragon hall. How dare I offend them? In fact, as long as I kill you and Guning, then take control of the entire Nether Realm, the Primal Chaos Temple won't suspect me." Sapphire Shore laughed loudly. His eyes were as calm as still water, as if everything was under his control. You want to kill me? With just you? Chao Rong's eyes revealed a strange expression as if he had heard the world's funniest joke. He continued, "You're really crazy. Now, I just need to spread the news to the Primal Chaos Temple, and your Blue Dragon Hall will cease to exist." Sapphire Shore's smile grew wider. He said, "Lord Chao Rong, you seem very confident. Then, can you try to spread the news?" Hearing this, Chao Rong frowned slightly. With a flick of his finger, he took out a jade slip and crushed it. Immediately, a ray of light disappeared into the depths of nether heaven at the speed of light. However, the ray of light quickly returned from the depths of nether heaven and landed in Chao Rong's palm. The entire nether heaven and nether realm have been sealed? Chao Rong's expression was gloomy as he said something that shocked everyone. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the 5-clawed golden dragon swept through the void and landed beside Sapphire Shore. Yan Ji, Zhao Jun, and the others landed not far away from Zhuan. Their eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. Long Tian, who had originally landed in the distance, also flew behind Zhuowen in an extremely respectful manner and made space for him. Naturally, they had heard Chao Rong's words clearly. They did not expect Sapphire Shore to be so powerful as to seal off the entire nether heaven. How did he do it? Looks like Sapphire Shore used the power of the heavenly worm to seal off nether heaven, right? Zhuowen's voice was extremely low. To be able to seal off such a large area of 9 nether heaven, perhaps only that strange and unpredictable heavenly insect could do so. Good, good, good. Sapphire Shore, you're really courting death. How dare you plot against me? I'll personally kill you today. Chao Rong roared angrily as a terrifying saint power burst out. The saint power continued to condense and condensed into 99 blazing suns with boiling magma around him. Each blazing sun was at least 1,000 feet in size. The 99 blazing suns appeared above nether heaven, and the terrifying temperatures swept out like a flood. Even the countless creatures far away in nether heaven could feel their mouths and tongues go dry. Die! Chao Rong was among the 99 blazing suns. Countless blazing suns rotated as he took a step forward. He seemed to have teleported and landed in front of Sapphire Shore. So powerful! Chao Rong is indeed a powerhouse of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. This power is comparable to Zhou Tianzong. Feeling the terrifying aura from Chao Rong, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. There was no doubt that Chao Rong was definitely a powerhouse of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. His aura was so terrifying that it was definitely not something an ordinary profound sage could contend against. Sapphire Shore's gaze was solemn as he punched out. Thousands of azure dragon shadows appeared and flickered in the void. The sound of the fist exploding through the air was endless. Rumble! The attacks of the two collided, and the entire nether heaven began to rumble. Then, a huge ravine appeared from the head of nether heaven all the way to the tail. The terrifying ravine caused the hearts of countless cultivators to tremble, and their eyes were filled with fear. Thump, thump, thump. The ravine appeared, and the attacks were destroyed. Then, the two figures retreated hundreds of feet. You're also in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm? Chao Rong was surprised. He didn't expect Sapphire Shore to be in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. He had inquired about Sapphire Shore before, and the latter was clearly in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. He didn't expect the information to be so unreliable. Sapphire Shore, leave this lackey of the Primal Chaos Temple to me. The Primal Chaos Temple has been suppressing my main body for tens of thousands of years. I want to take good care of this lackey of the Primal Chaos Temple. Suddenly, a hoarse voice came from the black figure. Then, the black figure began to wriggle, turning into a human figure and landing beside Sapphire Shore. This figure was not unfamiliar to Zhuowen. It was Mu Feng's appearance back then. However, at this moment, Mu Feng's eyes were filled with a strange black color, while countless tiny tentacles were wriggling around his body. As expected, the sky worm avatar escaped. When the Bai Fong suddenly left the central plains, I already suspected it. You were brought out by the Bai Fong, right? Where is the Bai Fong? Gunning took a step forward and landed beside Chao Rong. He stared at the sky worm in shock and anger. Bai Fong, that damned old man. That old man suppressed me for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that he's dead, he can't be any more dead. It's useless for you to find him, the sky worm snickered. The Bai Fong is a sinner. Even death can't wipe out his crimes. However, you were able to grow so quickly in such a short time. This sapphire shore must have helped you, right? Chao Rong's face darkened as he said in a deep voice. Of course. It's impossible for me to grow so quickly on my own. Sapphire Shore can be said to be my benefactor, the sky worm laughed aloud. Chao Rong's eyes were very cold. He continued, Sapphire Shore, you're asking a tiger for its skin. If you work with the sky worm, he'll eat you up until not even your bones remain. You still have a chance to deal with the sky worm with me. When the time comes, the Primal Chaos Temple will forgive you. I don't need the Primal Chaos Temple's forgiveness. As long as I kill you and make up a perfect lie, the Primal Chaos Temple won't suspect me. After all, the eastern lands are just too far away from the Central Plains. Sapphire Shore smiled and continued, and if it weren't for the Sky Worm, I wouldn't have had the chance to break through to the Yang Sky Saint Realm. Why should I deal with the Sky Worm with you? Let's cut the crap. Sapphire Shore, kill the Tun and take his spirit ring. Don't you want the Immortal Saint artifact on him? Kill him, take his spirit ring, and I won't fight with you for the Immortal Saint artifact. How about that? The Sky Worm snickered at Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore was overjoyed. He said, Thank you for your kindness, Lord Sky Worm. This time, Sapphire Shore will definitely not disappoint you. I'll thoroughly torture Zhuowen to death. Chapter 1502. Blue Hellish Fiend Dragon, how presumptuous of you! Chao Rong yelled furiously. The 99 suns around him emitted a terrifying glow as he shot at the heavenly insect like an arrow fired from a bow. Gunning followed beside Chao Rong. His skinny right hand tapped in the air. His immortal force was like the most vivid ink, drawing several abstruse formations in the air. Gunning was a mystic saint master. The number of killing formations that he knew far surpassed Zhuowen's. The formations that he was drawing were not something that Zhuowen could use. However, Zhuowen's divine sense was inherited from the Bai Fong. Even though he did not have the ability to draw the formations that Gunning was drawing, he could still understand them. The Supreme Destruction Formation. The Absolute Slaughter Formation. The Mountain of Corpses Formation. In the blink of an eye, Gunning had outlined 7 or 8 deadly formations, each of which possessed terrifying power. Zhuowen stared at Gunning's hand and the killing formations that he kept drawing. His eyes flickered with understanding. The black and white Naiwen Palace on his forehead spun wildly. The immortal force in his body began to gather in his Naiwen Palace. Bang! A thunderous voice erupted from Zhuozheng's body, rumbling and exploding. Milky white immortal force soared into the sky from Zhuowen's forehead. A tremendous power descended from the sky like the might of the heavens. Did he break through? Sapphire Shore, who was about to attack Zhuowen, was stunned when he sensed the surging immortal force. The commotion caused by Zhuowen's breakthrough had attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. Zhuowen's mind power seems to have evolved? No, it's not mind power. It must be immortal force that's of a higher level than mind power. Bang bang bang. Zhuowen's immortal force was evolving rapidly. His Naiwen Palace had undergone tremendous changes too. His Naiwen Palace should have been filled with mind power, but it was now replaced by immortal force. Great Heavenly Arcana Master. Zhuowen mumbled softly. He did not expect to have an epiphany and a breakthrough after watching Gunning's method of outlining the formation. However, he was not surprised at all. After all, he had inherited the Bai Fong's Sea of Consciousness, which was the sea of consciousness of a profound saint master. With such a knowledge sea, he would not encounter any bottlenecks in the process of breaking through to profound saint master. Although Zhuowen did not deliberately cultivate his immortal force during this period of time, his immortal force was still slowly increasing. Now that he had some enlightenment, it was natural for him to break through in one go. He's still just an arcana heavenly master. Sapphire Shore came back to his senses and didn't care at all. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Zhuan. He sneered, "Little bastard, you killed so many people from my Blue Dragon Hall. It's time for you to pay your debt." As he spoke, Sapphire Shore's right palm slammed down. Above his head, dense saint energy intertwined and condensed into a terrifyingly vast mountainous palm. Rumble! A 1,000-meter-long dragon claw swept over and heavily slammed into the giant palm. The giant palm immediately collapsed, and Sapphire Shore took a few steps back as his gaze fell on the Abyss Saint Dragon. "Kiki, your dragon soul is not bad. After becoming a saint, it can actually transform into a 100,000-meter-long dragon. Is your dragon soul a mutated one?" Sapphire Shore grinned and continued, "I'd like to see if your dragon soul or mine is more powerful." As he spoke, the roar of a dragon burst out from Sapphire Shore's body, and a breathtaking green light bloomed from between his eyebrows. The green light grew denser and soared into the sky, turning into a 60,000-meter-long green dragon. This huge green dragon looked like a green dragon, but the difference was that this huge dragon's green dragon scales were mottled with a blood-red color. It looked extremely strange, and its eyes were filled with a blood-red baleful aura. Its ferocious aura was monstrous. 9th grade dragon soul, green abyss demon dragon. Sapphire Shore grinned, revealing a cruel and mocking smile. The moment Zhuan saw this dragon, his face darkened. This was because he sensed many familiar auras from this green hellish dragon. This green hellish dragon has devoured many dragon souls, and they should all be Ryuka dragon souls. Xiao Hei hovered beside Zhuan, her dragon eyes solemn and wary. Your dragon soul is quite intelligent. That's right. For the past 10,000 years, we have been searching for Ryuka descendants. The green hellish fiend dragon was originally a low-level dragon soul, but after continuously devouring dragon souls and the bloodline of your long family's descendants, it actually underwent an earth-shaking transformation. In the end, it transformed into a 9th grade dragon soul. Speaking of which, Ryuka descendants are really nourishing nourishment. Sapphire Shore cackled as he stared at Yun and Xiao Hei with a greedy expression. "You and your dragon soul are the most terrifying and talented Ryuka descendants I have ever seen. I wonder what kind of transformation the green hellish dragon will undergo after devouring the two of you." Zhuowen's eyes flashed with anger as he said coldly, "Sapphire Shore, you have gone too far. If I don't kill you today, I will be letting down the Ryuka descendants who have died at your hands." Don't be rash. Sapphire Shore's cultivation has already reached the Yang Sky Saint stage. You are no match for him. Yan Ji, who was standing behind Zhuowen, couldn't help but try to persuade him. Yan Ji himself was in the Yin Sky Saint stage, and he was very clear about how terrifying the Yang Sky Saint stage was. To put it bluntly, even Yan Ji wouldn't be able to last long in front of Sapphire Shore, let alone Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's combat strength was terrifying after breaking through to the profound saint stage, and he had comprehended 5 types of laws, making him far stronger than ordinary profound sages, Yan Ji still didn't think that Zhuowen would be a match for Sapphire Shore. However, Long Tian, who was standing not far from Yan Ji, didn't say anything. His eyes were full of passion as he knelt on one knee and said to Zhuowen, "Lord Zhuowen, it's time for the Ryuka to see the light of day again." As soon as Long Tian said this, Yan Ji and the others were stunned. Even Sapphire Shore revealed a strange expression. For tens of thousands of years, traces of the Ryuka had always been hard to find. Even if there were any, they would have been captured and exterminated by the Blue Dragon Hall. It could be said that the number of Ryuka descendants should be extremely small. Are you joking? Let the Ryuka see the light of day again? How laughable! Sapphire Shore sneered, thinking that Long Tian was joking with him. It's indeed time for the Ryuka to see the light of day again. Zhuowen's eyes blurred as he flicked his finger and took out the blue dragon token. Rumble! A huge palace appeared above Zhuowen's head. This palace was tens of thousands of meters tall, and a terrifying saint aura leaked out from it, as if it could crush the surrounding space. Immortal Saint Artifact. It's an immortal saint artifact. When the Blue Dragon Hall was summoned by Zhuowen, the entire ninth netherworld realm was in an uproar. Everyone stared eagerly at the huge palace. This was an immortal saint artifact. Who wouldn't want such a terrifying saint artifact? Rumble. Chao Rong and Guning, who were fighting with Tiangu, also stopped what they were doing. They stared blankly at Zhuan and the huge blue dragon hall. It really is an immortal saint artifact. How can a mere eastern land have an immortal saint artifact? Chao Rong had a strange expression as he exclaimed in disbelief. Guning, who was standing beside him, was also stunned. As disciples of the chaotic temple, they had naturally seen immortal saint artifacts before. As soon as the Blue Dragon Hall was summoned, they knew that this huge palace was an immortal saint artifact. Tiangu grinned. With a kick of his right foot, he turned into a black shadow and instantly appeared in front of Chao Rong and Guning. A mere immortal saint artifact can make the two of you reveal such expressions. The chaotic temple is just petty. Tiangu laughed and extended his right hand. Countless black qi turned into a huge palm that was surrounded by dense and terrifying black tentacles. Block it. Chao Rong was both shocked and furious. He didn't expect Tiangu to take advantage of this opportunity to attack, so he was at a loss. However, Chao Rong was an expert of the Yang Sky Saint Realm after all. Although he was at a loss, Tiangu's sneak attack didn't succeed. A scream suddenly came from Chao Rong's side. Guning, who was beside him, was surrounded by countless black tentacles. Then, the tentacles pulled, and Guning was directly pulled out. Oh no, Tiangu's target isn't me. It's Guning. Chao Rong's expression changed greatly. He shouted angrily and took out a giant ruler. The surface of the ruler was burning with green flames. What was more terrifying was the terrifying saint aura that radiated from the huge ruler. It was definitely an extremely powerful ascended saint artifact. Break it! Chao Rong waved his right hand and the huge ruler smashed toward Tiangu like a mountain. Green flames spread across the entire sky like a grassland, full of green. Moreover, the flames were unusual. They had corrosive power. When Tiangu's tentacles touched the flames, they were all corroded and disappeared without a trace. Ascended Saint Artifact Green Erosion Ruler? Tiangu narrowed his eyes. Countless tentacles suddenly gathered and turned into a black barrier. The barrier contained a black halo that barely blocked the Green Erosion Ruler for 3 breaths of time. However, that was enough time. Guning was completely left behind by him. A huge shadow of a black monster appeared behind Tiangu. The shadow suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed Guning. Crunch, crunch. The monster's huge mouth chewed up and down and then swallowed Guning. Guning didn't even have time to scream before he became Tiangu's meal. I hate Arcana Saint Masters the most. I hate their formations the most. Tiangu patted his stomach and stared at Chao Rong casually. As he swallowed Guning, Tiangu's aura seemed to be growing stronger. Chao Rong, after I take care of you, there won't be any future trouble. Tiangu glanced at Zhuan, who had summoned the Azure Dragon Palace, and then looked at Chao Rong again. Tiangu knew very well that palace-type saint artifacts were usually special spatial saint artifacts. They didn't have powerful attacks and were only supportive. Therefore, in his opinion, even if Zhuan had an immortal saint artifact, he wouldn't be a match for Sapphire Shore. Chapter 1503. This is the birth of Ryakahush. The moment the Blue Dragon Hall appeared above Zhuowen's head, numerous figures rushed out of the magnificent hall. The auras of these figures were extremely vast. The weakest of them was at the Emperor Realm, while the strongest was at the Sky Yin Sacred Realm. There were nearly 10,000 of them. And the one who had reached the Sky Yin Sacred Realm was none other than Long Xiaotian. At this moment, Long Xiaotian was in front of everyone. Behind him, 8 figures respectfully followed. The auras of these 8 figures were extremely vast, and their bodies were filled with terrifying saint might. They were all profound sages. Greetings, Lord Long Wen. Nearly 10,000 martial artists landed behind Zhuo Wen in a grandiose manner. Shortly after, they all knelt down on one knee in unison. Nearly 10,000 voices resounded, like the explosion of profound thunder from the 9th heaven, reverberating in the nine nether heaven. What kind of glory was it to have 10,000 people worship him? This scene shocked the entire nine nether realm. Everyone's gazes fell on Zhuowen, and they didn't know how to describe their shock at this moment. The cultivation of these nearly 10,000 people wasn't bad. The weakest of them was at the Emperor realm, and there were 9 sages. Among them, there were even powerhouses at the Sky-In sacred realm. Such a force was definitely comparable to the current Blue Dragon Hall. What was even more shocking was that this force respected Zhuowen. Although these nearly 10,000 people called him Long One, everyone could guess that this so-called Long One was Zhuowen. Is this the Ryuka force? After nearly 10,000 years, is the Ryuka really going to rise again and take back everything the Ryuka lost? In the Nine Nether realm, countless cultivators had looks of awe in their eyes. Some people even recalled the past of the Ryuka, and their eyes shone with a frightening light. Long Tian, who was standing not far away, looked at the arrival of nearly 10,000 Ryuka cultivators with excitement. He used his movement technique and landed beside Long Shaoun. Including Zhuowen and Long Tian, the Ryuka has a total of 11 sages. This number is really terrifying, someone murmured in shock. Sapphire Shore's expression changed slightly, and his eyes revealed a look of surprise. He didn't expect the Ryuka to be able to develop so terrifyingly. It must be the credit of this saint artifact. Soon, Sapphire Shore's eyes lured Blue Dragon Hall. He knew that the Ryuka must have been hiding in the Blue Dragon Hall all these years. No matter how many resources the saint artifact, how did it produce so many powerhouses in such a short amount of time? If Sapphire Shore knew that the laws of time existed in the Blue Dragon Hall, he probably wouldn't be so surprised. A day outside was a year inside. In addition, Yun had opened the door to the outside world, so the laws of heaven and earth could be used in the Blue Dragon Hall. Naturally, the cultivation of the people inside was extremely fast. It had been at least a few hundred years since Yun left the Blue Dragon Hall. In these few hundred years, with the support of various resources, cultivation techniques, and weapons, the Ryuka's development was extremely fast. Father, where are grandfather and the others? Zhuowen came to Long Xiaotian and looked around. He couldn't help but ask curiously when he saw that many of the upper echelons of the Ryuka weren't present. Father, they are after all in the Emperor realm. I don't feel at ease letting them come out. After all, this battle will be extremely tragic. If they aren't careful, they will regret it for the rest of their lives. Long Xiaotian smiled bitterly. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded in understanding. Then, his gaze fell on the Ryuka disciples. Although he had been in the outside world for more than a year, Long Xiaotian had reported to him everything that had happened in the Blue Dragon Hall. Therefore, Zhuowen already knew about the current scale of the Ryuka. Long Tian, take these 10,000 people to the Dragon Phantom Realm. Break through the Dragon Phantom Realm and kill everyone in the Blue Dragon Hall. Zhuowen turned his head slightly and stared at Long Tian as he said coldly and emotionlessly. Long Tian agreed without the slightest hesitation. Under Zhuo Wen's orders, he led the mighty group of 10,000 people towards the square platform where the Dragon Wasteland was located. You dare! Sapphire Shore's eyes narrowed. He waved his right hand, and the 5-clawed golden dragon beside him roared and broke through the air, wanting to block Long Tian and the others. Let's go and block this 5-clawed golden dragon. Yan Ji roared as he led Jiang Xian and Wen Bai in front of the 5-clawed golden dragon and intercepted it. Zhao Jun even brought 2 demon saints to support Yan Ji. The 5-clawed golden dragon was stopped halfway, unable to move an inch forward. Bastard! Sapphire Shore cursed. Seeing that the 5-clawed golden dragon was blocked, he stomped his right foot and planned to intercept it personally. Most of the elites in the Dragon Phantom Realm had been sent out to participate in the Nine Nether Conference, and some of the higher-ups had also participated in the battle. It could be said that the Dragon Phantom Realm was very empty. Long Tian had brought so many experts to the Dragon Phantom Realm. It was definitely a catastrophe for the Blue Dragon Hall. Sapphire Shore, let's see where you're going. Long Xiaotian stepped out and immediately released the 2-headed nether dragon. At the same time, he released the laws of desolation, darkness, and wind at the same time. With a punch, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The 8 sages behind Long Xiaotian lined up behind Long Xiaotian in a mysterious pattern, forming a large formation. Long Xiaotian had become the eye of the formation. The 8 saints also released their own dragon souls. With a 2-headed nether dragon as the center, these dragon souls fused together and finally formed a gigantic iron-armored dragon that was fully covered in armor. Kill! With Long Xiaotian's punch, the huge dragon with armor flew up and landed heavily in front of Sapphire Shore. Scram! Sapphire Shore didn't care about Long Xiaotian's attack at all. He casually threw out a punch, thinking that this punch would be able to force Long Xiaotian to retreat. However, when the 2 fists collided, a terrifying force came crashing down. The huge dragon with armor roared and descended, landing in front of Sapphire Shore. The latter groaned and retreated. Dragon Soul Fusion? Sapphire Shore was shocked. The Dragon Soul Fusion was a secret technique of the Ryuka. It could fuse the dragon souls of people of the same race together to create an extremely powerful dragon soul attack. Green Hellish Dragon, suppress him! Sapphire Shore didn't want to waste time on Long Xiaotian. He was still worried about the safety of the Blue Dragon Hall. So, he immediately released his dragon soul to attack Long Xiaotian. Boom! 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 The Steel Hellish Dragon and the Green Hellish Dragon continued to exchange blows. Old dog, it's not that easy for you to leave. When Sapphire Shore was about to leave, Yuan stood on top of Xiao Hei's dragon head and blocked Sapphire Shore's path. Little bastard, how dare you stop me when you're just a glimpse profound saint? You're courting death. Sapphire Shore was enraged. He immediately threw out a punch and countless lightning bolts gathered. At the same time, he clenched his right hand and took out the Ascended Saint artifact, the Lightning Scepter. Rumble! Sapphire Shore used his full strength this time. The terrifying lightning bolts spread across the sky as if doomsday had arrived, causing countless living beings to tremble. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He waved his right hand and the Azure Dragon Hall appeared in front of him. The destructive lightning bolts landed on the Azure Dragon Hall but couldn't do anything to it. Although the Azure Dragon Hall couldn't launch a powerful attack, it was an immortal saint artifact after all. Its defense was extremely strong. Even if Sapphire Shore was a Sun Sky Saint Realm expert and had the Lightning Scepter, he might not be able to break through the Azure Dragon Hall's defense. Zhuan pressed his right hand on Xiao Hei's head. The Void Law spread across the surface of Xiao Hei's terrifying dragon body and the huge dragon body disappeared. Rumble! A huge dragon tail swept across the sky and slammed onto Sapphire Shore's back. Sapphire Shore snorted coldly. Countless lightning bolts gathered behind him and formed a lightning shield to block the terrifying dragon tail. When he turned around and tried to grab the huge dragon tail, the dragon tail had already disappeared into the void. This made Sapphire Shore gnash his teeth in anger. Although Zhuowen's cultivation and strength weren't a match for Sapphire Shore, Yuan, who had mastered the Void Law, was like a fish in water in the 9 nether heaven. His speed was extremely fast. Sapphire Shore couldn't attack Zhuowen at all. Every time Sapphire Shore wanted to leave, Yuan would use the Azure Dragon Hall to block in front of Sapphire Shore, not allowing him to leave. This kind of harassment made Sapphire Shore furious, but there was nothing he could do. After all, Yuan had mastered the Void Law. This kind of law was a divine tool for escaping. Even a Sun Sky Sacred Realm saint like him couldn't catch Yuan, especially in a place like 9 nether heaven that was filled with void space. Zhuan had the advantage of time and place. The Blue Dragon Hall in the Dragon Nether Realm is finished. While Zhuan was busy with Sapphire Shore, Long Tian had led close to 10,000 Ryuka disciples to the Dragon Nether Realm. Among these Ryuka disciples, there were many half-sages and invincible Emperor Lords. The experts in the Blue Dragon Hall were either dead or injured. Those left in the Dragon Nether Realm weren't very strong. At this moment, in the Blue Dragon Hall in the Dragon Nether Realm, Elder Raiwa looked at the 10,000 figures with an ugly expression. When the saints were fighting, Elder Raiwa had already entered the Dragon Nether Realm to hide. Although he wanted to kill Zhuowen with his own hands, Unfortunately, Zhuan had successfully broken through to the Saint Realm and directly advanced to the Scry Profound Saint Realm. This kid could kill a Scry Profound Saint like Qing Longzi before becoming a saint. Now that he had advanced to the Scry Profound Saint Realm, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill a fragmented saint like Qing Longzi. Why does Zhuan have such a terrifying force behind him? Raiwa felt bitter. If he had known earlier, he would have brought Yen Ruhua back to the Burning Heaven sect. Now, it was too late for regrets. The entire 9 Nether Realm and 9 Nether Heaven have been sealed by Heavenly Insect. I don't even have the chance to inform the sect master. Damn it. Raiwa crushed the jade slip in his hand with hatred in his heart. He had just found out about the cooperation between Sapphire Shore and Heavenly Insect. He had also heard of the Heavenly Worm's reputation. This green jade shore actually cooperated with such a terrifying disaster. He was really too bold. Was he not afraid that he would be beaten back? Chapter 1504. The Blue Dragon Hall's Disaster. Take this dragon head blade. Remember, you must kill Elder Raiwa and everyone in the Blue Dragon Hall. As Long Tian held the dragon-headed saber in his hand, he recalled Zhuo Wen's voice transmission to him before he left. Therefore, his eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Elder Raiwa. Perhaps sensing Long Tian's murderous intent, Elder Raiwa's pupils shrank. He coldly snorted and said, "I am a member of the Burning Heaven sect. The enmity between the Ryuka and the Blue Dragon Hall has nothing to do with me. I don't want to interfere in this matter. But you must die." Long Tian didn't waste any time talking. He swung his right hand, and the dragon head broadsword flew out toward Elder Linghua. At the same time, his dragon soul surged out and surrounded the dragon head broadsword. It was as if it was supporting the dragon head broadsword as it flew forward. "The 10 of you, come with me and kill this Raiwa. The rest of you, enter the Blue Dragon Hall and kill everyone. Don't let even an ant go." The moment the dragon head blade blasted out, Long Tian shouted and selected 10 of the most powerful half-saints. They all rushed towards Raiwa. "Damn it." Elder Raiwa angrily cursed and blasted out a fist. Flames filled the sky and heavily blasted the dragon head blade. However, what made his expression change slightly was that the dragon head blade was a profound saint artifact after all. Coupled with the support of Long Tian's dragon soul, it was extremely powerful. He was actually forced to retreat dozens of steps. Long Tian dashed over in an instant. Grabbing the hilt of his saber with his right hand, he appeared in front of Spiritual Fire in an instant. Slashing out with his saber, he slashed at Spiritual Fire's lower abdomen with the might of the dragon. Raiwa roared angrily. He raised his hands, and the Law of Fire transformed into 2 large blades that collided with the dragon head blades. However, to his horror, the might of the dragon head blades was too terrifying. The 2 flaming blades couldn't even withstand a single blow. Elder Linghua wanted to retreat, but the 10 half-step sages joined forces to block his retreat. Scram! Elder Raiwa angrily roared and pushed with both hands. Flames soared into the sky. Although the 10 half-saints were flustered and somewhat unable to resist, they were still able to delay Raiwa for a period of time. On the other hand, Long Tian was like a god descending from the heavens. This dragon head broadsword was simply prepared for dragon soul martial artists. With the dragon head broadsword in hand, Long Tian was like a hot knife through butter. His strength was incisive and vivid. For a moment, Elder Raiwa was completely suppressed by Long Tian. In addition, the 10 half-saints cooperated with him. Finally, after dozens of rounds of battle, Elder Raiwa's weakness was caught by Long Tian. The dragon head broadsword directly chopped off Elder Raiwa's head. Long Tian directly crushed Elder Raiwa's nascent soul. From then on, Elder Raiwa was completely dead. The moment Elder Raiwa was killed by Long Tian, shrill screams rang out in the Blue Dragon Hall. There were just too many Ryuka people. They rushed into the Blue Dragon Hall and began a massacre. Any martial artist within the range of the Blue Dragon Hall was killed without mercy. The Blue Dragon Hall is finished. The screams of the Dragon Spirit Realm were extremely loud. Countless martial artists in the other spirit realms could hear them clearly. The shrill screams sent chills down many martial artists' spines. They knew that the Blue Dragon Hall was probably finished. Once all the disciples in the Blue Dragon Hall were killed, the Blue Dragon Hall would only exist in name. Ryuka, Juon, you deserve to die. Qing Yuan's eyes were scarlet red. This was especially the case when he heard the numerous miserable cries, which violently struck his heart. Sapphire Shore really wanted to kill Juon right now. However, Juon relied on the Blue Dragon Hall to obstruct him. It was impossible for him to break through the obstruction and help the Blue Dragon Hall. It's your Blue Dragon Hall that deserves to die. What you did to our Ryuka back then, the Ryuka, will return it to you one by one. The void cracked as Juon took a step forward and coldly stared at Sapphire Shore. I'm not playing with you anymore. You're going to die today too. At this point, Juon's gaze suddenly turned cold. Then, he leaped up and stood at the top of the Blue Dragon Hall with his hands clasped together. 18th Mountain God, I, Juon, am begging for your help now. I hope that you can lend me a hand and kill the enemy, Juon softly chanted. When the last word came out of his mouth, a huge bald head began to condense at the peak of the 18th mountain in the third layer of the Blue Dragon Hall. It's Juon, that brat, who's summoning me. It seems that he's in trouble outside. The bald head muttered in a low voice and continued, well, since this kid summoned me, I'll go out. It's been a long time since I went out for a walk. I don't even know what it's like outside. With that, the bald head dissipated and a bald man flew out from the peak. With a wave of his right hand, the 18th mountain that stretched across the sky began to tremble violently. Then the mountains and seas were overturned. It directly soared into the sky and left the sea. The movement of the 18th mountain attracted the attention of the other 17 mountain gods in the upper realm. Old 18 left? Could it be that he went to the outside world? It's said that the Blue Dragon Hall has been refined by a brat. Previously, during the trial in the upper realm, that brat and old 18 were quite close. It seems that brat is in trouble and summoned old 18 to help. Old 9 is right. The upper realm has a restriction set up by the Blue Dragon Taoist. Without the permission of the master of the Blue Dragon Hall, we can't go out at all. I'm really envious of old 18. He can actually go out for a walk. I haven't been out for a long time. I don't even know what the outside world is like. After the 18th mountain left the upper realm, many divine consciousnesses lingered in the upper realm and discussed. These divine consciousnesses were very powerful. Many ferocious beasts in the sea trembled and did not dare to come out of the water. Stop arguing. Go back to your respective areas quietly. Suddenly, an even more terrifying divine consciousnesses swept across the entire upper realm. When this divine consciousnesses arrived, the entire sea surged with thousands of waves. Countless ferocious beasts flew into the sky, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Many ferocious beasts scattered when the tree fell. They all fled for their lives and did not dare to stay in this place. Boss is here. Let's go, let's go. When this enormous divine consciousnesses arrived, those chattering divine consciousnesses immediately dissipated. It was as if they were afraid of this divine consciousnesses. That brat is called Juon, right? I wonder if he can help me successfully? However, I still have to carefully observe this brat. This enormous divine thought let out a sigh. Soon after, it gradually disappeared and the surface of the sea regained its calmness. Rumble. In the outside world, Juon had just finished praying when a huge mountain that connected the heavens and the earth ruthlessly smashed out from the Azure Dragon Hall. The direction it smashed towards was the direction of Green Jade Shore. Sapphire Shore clearly did not expect such a terrifying mountain to suddenly rush out from the Azure Dragon Hall. For a moment he was a little flustered. Thump, 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 thump. Sapphire Shore waved his lightning scepter. Countless lightning surged and blocked the mountain. However, the mountain was too big. Sapphire Shore had no choice but to retreat dozens of steps as his blood boiled. This was the 18th mountain that had stood in the 3rd layer of the Azure Dragon Hall for countless years. This mountain could pierce through the heavens and the earth. Its power could cover the sun and moon. When the mountain smashed down, the heavens and the earth collapsed. Rumble. The 18th mountain heavily landed in the 9th nether heaven. The majestic mountain seemed to pierce through the heavens. It looked extremely exaggerated. At the top of the mountain, there was a figure covered in golden light. Upon closer inspection, this figure was a bald, muscular man. There was a wheel of light behind his head, making him look like a Buddha. Ha! I'm finally out. After staying in the 3rd layer of the 9th nether heaven for thousands of years, this old man can finally come out and see the outside world. The bald man laughed loudly. His voice was as loud as thunder, causing pain in the eardrums of many cultivators. Senior Lowe's. Yuan cupped his hands and smiled politely. You summon me. There should be something you need me to deal with, right? Just say it. I, Lowe's, will help you if I can. Lowe's stared at Yuan in an extremely forthright manner. Yuan's eyes lit up with joy. He smiled and said, "Then, many thanks to Senior Lowe's. Can you help me kill this old dog in front of me?" As he spoke, Yuan pointed at Sapphire Shore. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Lowe's turned his head and sized up Sapphire Shore. He nodded and said, "A saint of the Sun Sky Saint Realm, and his foundation is very unstable. He's quite a good opponent. I'll help you kill him." Lowe's relaxed tone made Sapphire Shore's expression turn ugly. The bald man in front of him did not have any saint power fluctuations on him, but he dared to say such big words. How could Sapphire Shore not be angry? However, Qing Yuan didn't dare to act blindly without thinking because he knew that the enormous mountain that connected the heavens and the earth was thrown out by the bald big man's hand. What kind of great power did he need to be able to lift such a huge mountain? Senior Lowe's, there are many disciples of your faith in the 18th mountain, right? Can this be a weapon? Yuan was a little worried for the living beings in the 18th mountain. Could the living beings in the 18th mountain withstand Lowe's ruthless throw? Don't worry about that. Each of the 18 mountains has a powerful formation set up by the first mountain god. As long as the mountain doesn't collapse, the living beings inside will not be affected at all. Lowe's laughed and immediately leaped to the foot of the mountain. He grabbed the foot of the mountain with both hands and exerted force, causing the 18th mountain to fly up. Then, Lowe's leaped into the air and kicked the mountainside. The huge mountain whistled through the air and headed straight for Sapphire Shore again. Damn it! Sapphire Shore's expression changed slightly. He struck out with the thunder scepter again and again. Countless thunderbolts gathered and formed a tough spider web in front of them. Rumble! However, the 18th mountain was too terrifying. The spider web formed by the thunderbolts was like paper and immediately shattered. Sapphire Shore held the thunder scepter in front of him with both hands. The huge mountain swept over and smashed onto the surface of the thunder law. Immediately, Sapphire Shore spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Your foundation in the Yang Tian sacred stage is very unstable. You must have used some kind of secret technique to raise it. In my opinion, you are much weaker than a normal Yang Tian sacred stage saint. The moment Sapphire Shore flew backward, Lowe's instantly appeared in front of him. He grinned and punched Sapphire Shore's chest. Then, there was the ear-piercing sound of bones cracking. Chapter 1505. SS Internal Strife. Boom boom boom. Lowe's was extremely fast. He was like a shadow as he punched out again and again. His punches were as fast as meteors. Sapphire Shore couldn't resist at all. Although he waved the thunder scepter and covered his body with the law of thunder, it was useless. The power of a greater mastery saint body was much stronger than Zhuowen's lesser mastery saint body. Moreover, Sapphire Shore's Yang Sky Saint Realm was forcefully raised using a secret technique. Therefore, Sapphire Shore's foundation was innately weaker than an ordinary Yang Sky Saint Realm cultivator. Bang bang bang. Sapphire Shore was like a rubber ball that was constantly being hit. He was sent flying back and forth in the void. Liao Xi's punches were very powerful. Every time a fist landed on his body, the intense pain caused Qing Yuan to involuntarily cry out in a low voice. His voice was extremely miserable. Boom! Lowe's clenched his hands into hammers and smashed them in front of Sapphire Shore again. Sapphire Shore's eyes were filled with shock. He directly held the Thunder Scepter in front of him. He could feel that Low's attack was terrifying. If he didn't block it, his life would be in danger. Gotcha! With one hammer, the surrounding space collapsed. Terrifying cracks began to appear on the surface of the Thunder Scepter that flickered with endless thunder. How is this possible? Looking at the spreading crack, Qin Yuan was shocked to the point that his mind was greatly shocked, and he couldn't help but cry out. "You're very noisy." Low's picked his ears and changed the direction of his punch. It landed on Sapphire Shore's abdomen. The latter's back bent and he couldn't help but fly back. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was as pale as snow. "Boy, how do you plan to deal with this guy?" Liao Si waved his right hand, and countless golden veins appeared on his arm. They shot out like golden threads, wrapping around the flying green jade shore and pulling it back. He held it in his hand and looked at Zhuowen. Hiss. From the moment Low's attacked to when Sapphire Shore was beaten like a dog, only 3 breaths of time had passed. In this short period of time, everyone witnessed the entire process of how Sapphire Shore had been beaten up from a high and mighty heavenly sage. Such a scene was too shocking. It shocked everyone to the point that they were speechless for a long time. They didn't even know how to describe their feelings at this moment. Jun took a step forward and landed beside Low's. He stared indifferently at Sapphire Shore and said, "The Blue Dragon Hall is no more." Cough, cough, cough. Sapphire Shore coughed out a large mouthful of blood and his chest heaved violently. He stared at Juan with a complicated expression and said, "I didn't expect that I would still make a wrong move. This immortal saint weapon is really amazing. It can even summon such an existence. You should have known that such a day would come when you did such a thing to the Ryuka. You had to bear the consequences of your actions." "You can't bear the consequences of your actions," Zhuowen said indifferently. Sapphire Shore smiled and said, "Can't bear the consequences? Do you think that I, Sapphire Shore, can't bear the consequences? I thought that victory was in my hands, but I didn't expect you to have such a powerful trump card. I've lost. Since you've lost, you should be prepared to die." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He stretched out his right hand and the 9 stars 8 trigrams spear landed in his palm. He didn't waste any more words and pointed the spear at Sapphire Shore's forehead. "Ha! I will die, but I will make you pay the price." "Zhonha!" Sapphire Shore suddenly roared to the sky and said, "Skyworm, I'm willing to become a part of you, but you have to promise to kill Zhuan." Zhuowen's eyes changed and the 9 stars 8 trigrams spear pierced through the void at an extremely fast speed. He wanted to kill Sapphire Shore immediately. At the instant the tip of his spear was about to pierce into the space between Qin Yuan's brows, a figure suddenly flew out, and a sharp whistle exploded out as it fiercely collided with Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. The speed of this figure was too fast, and the angle was too accurate. It was heading straight for him. If he were to continue attacking Qin Yuan, he would definitely be hit by it. Zhuan had no choice but to change the direction of his spear and thrust it at the figure that was rushing toward him. "Junior, get lost. How dare you point your spear at me?" Just as Zhuowen's spear momentum changed, a loud shout was heard. The person who flew backward was none other than Chao Rong of the Primal Chaos Temple. At this moment, Chao Rong was in a slightly sorry state as he flew straight toward Tun. When he saw Zhuowen's spear momentum pointing at him, he couldn't help but shout and throw out his right palm. Bang! The spear momentum and the palm momentum collided, and the surrounding space collapsed. Zhuan groaned and then retreated hundreds of steps, the blood and qi in his body boiling. Fortunately, he had a small success saint body and his physique was tough and indomitable. He didn't suffer any serious injuries, but he did suffer some internal injuries. There was no doubt that Chao Rong didn't hold back in that attack. If other profound sages had taken that attack head-on, they would have been directly destroyed. While Zhuan was retreating because of Chao Rong, countless black tentacles rushed toward Low's. "What the hell is this?" Low's shouted in a low voice, and the power of his large success saint body erupted. He waved his right palm, and the black tentacles that were rushing toward him were all shattered. However, there were too many tentacles. The moment Lowe's smashed the tentacles in front of him, another group of tentacles suddenly rushed toward him from the other side. However, the target of these tentacles wasn't Lowe's, but the sapphire shore in Lowe's hand. Lowe's didn't pay attention for a moment, and the tentacles drilled through the air. The sapphire shore was directly captured by these tentacles. Damn it! Come it! Liao Si roared angrily. He stepped on the void and shot out at a speed so fast that it was dazzling. Bush, bush, bush. However, a black shadow suddenly landed in front of Lowe's and punched out. Countless tentacles spread out. Lowe's was not afraid and also punched out. The two fists collided, and then a terrifying air wave erupted. Then, Lowe's couldn't help but retreat thousands of feet. The black shadow frowned slightly and also retreated thousands of feet. What is that? Lowe's stared at the black shadow in front of him with a serious expression. He didn't expect that other than the other mountain gods in the third heaven, there would be other creatures whose physical bodies could reach such a terrifying level. In the confrontation just now, he had been at a disadvantage. This black shadow was naturally Skyworm. He glanced at Lowe's and immediately landed beside Sapphire Shore. He grinned and said, "Hall Master Qing, are you finally going to completely liberate me?" Sapphire Shore's eyes were full of murderous intent. He said, "I can cancel the contract we signed, but you have to help me kill Zhuowen and wipe out all the Ryuka remnants." At this moment, Sapphire Shore's bones were almost all shattered. Lowe's fist power was too terrifying. Even if a heavenly saint's body was strong enough, it still couldn't resist the brute force of Lowe's great completion divine body. Sapphire Shore knew that in his current state, he didn't know how long it would take for him to recover. He could only rely on Skyworm now. Of course, as long as Hall Master Qing becomes a part of me, my strength will break through the shackles and reach a new level. Also, I promise that I won't erase your consciousness. You will become a part of me as an independent consciousness. Skyworm laughed, and there was a hint of greed in his dark eyes. Sapphire Shore was a heavenly saint elite. If he swallowed such an elite, it would be obvious to him. Sapphire Shore was far more valuable than the previous 11 heavenly saints. Let's begin. At this moment, Sapphire Shore's eyes were already blinded by hatred. The Blue Dragon Hall was destroyed, and his heart was dead. On top of that, he was beaten up so badly by Lowe's. He knew that he had no other choice. "Don't worry, I will help you reach the peak and avenge you." Skyworm laughed loudly. Countless tentacles swept over and instantly drowned Sapphire Shore. The latter didn't resist at all. Skyworm has swallowed Sapphire Shore. Damn it, I'm afraid this darn thing's strength will increase again. By then, none of us here will be a match for this darn thing. Chao Rong's expression changed. He had fought with Skyworm just now, but he was at a disadvantage. Now that Skyworm had swallowed a heavenly saint elite like Sapphire Shore again, its strength would become even more terrifying. Even Chao Rong felt his heart tremble. "Junior, this is all your fault. If you hadn't provoked Sapphire Shore, he wouldn't have let Skyworm swallow him. It's already difficult for us to deal with Skyworm now." Chao Rong suddenly turned his head and stared coldly at Tun. His tone was extremely unfriendly. Seeing Chao Rong's attitude, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Then he said gloomily, "Lord Chao Rong, what do you mean? I fought with Sapphire Shore. Do you want me to spare his life?" "Junior, no matter how you quibble, it's useless. Since you've committed this sin, you'll have to bear the consequences. Right now, I'm the strongest here. Let me refine this immortal sacred artifact. I'll deal with this heavenly worm." Chao Rong suddenly pointed at the Azure Dragon Hall not far away and continued, "Only I can unleash most of the power of this immortal saint artifact. This is the only choice now." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed into slits. He sneered and said, "Lord Chao Rong, do you mean that I'll give this immortal saint artifact to you now? Do you have any other choice now? You're just a profound saint. How much power can you unleash from this immortal saint artifact?" Chao Rong said coldly. Zhuan smiled faintly and said, "Lord Chao Rong doesn't need to worry about this. I'll deal with it myself." "You're courting death. How dare you disobey my orders?" Chao Rong was furious. He raised his right palm, and terrifying saint energy condensed. He suddenly pressed down on Zhuowen. He actually planned to kill Zhuowen. Boom! The moment Chao Rong's palm fell, Lowe's blocked in front of Zhuowen and punched out. Two terrifying forces swirled in the air. Then, Chao Rong snorted and took a few steps back. He stared at Lowe's in surprise. Because he had been fighting Sky Worm, he didn't notice the battle between Lowe's and Sapphire Shore. He ignored Lowe's existence from the beginning. Lord Chao Rong, you want to snatch the Immortal Saint artifact? Is this how your Primal Chaos Temple does things? Zhuowen said with a gloomy look. Chao Rong frowned. He didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a powerful helper. He just snorted and said, "Of course not. Since you can unleash the true power of this Immortal Saint artifact, I won't say anything." Chapter 1506. Bone spikes fill the sky. Chao Rong's tone changed extremely quickly. She did not feel embarrassed at all. However, this made Zhuowen sneer in his heart. Zhuowen was no fool. He knew that a celestial saint artifact was too precious. Even Chao Rong, a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, was no exception. She wanted to snatch the Azure Dragon Hall from him. However, now was not the time to be calculative. Chao Rong's strength was not ordinary. She was in the Sun Sky Saint realm. Moreover, as a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, she most likely had many trump cards. Gulp, gulp. All of a sudden, a strange voice rang out from the front. The heavenly insect had already completely devoured the green jade shore. The heavenly insect, who had transformed into Mu Feng, raised his head towards the sky and laughed heartily. In the next moment, countless black tentacles erupted from his body. More and more black tentacles appeared. They almost covered half of the 9 underworld sky. The densely packed tentacles were too terrifying. They were like an endless black rain that poured down. Then, these black tentacles began to pulsate like veins. They gathered together and formed a huge beast. This huge beast was extremely strange. It had a human face and an insect body. Both sides of its body were densely packed with thin legs. These thin legs were compared to the heavenly insect's huge body. Just one of its thin legs was more than 10 feet thick. It was like a huge stone pillar. The insect's body was covered with hard scales. On the middle of its back, there were many bone spikes that pierced the sky. The bone spikes extended from its neck all the way to its tail. It looked extremely strange and terrifying. The heavenly insect clone has transformed. This form is extremely similar to the original body. After the green jade shore was absorbed by the heavenly worm, the green abyss evil dragon also directly dissipated. Little Black recovered its small black dog form and landed on Zhuowen's shoulder. At this moment, its eyes were looking at the giant worm in the sky as it solemnly said. Only Yan Ji, Zhao Jun, and the others faced the 5-clawed golden dragon. They were also annihilated by Xiao Hei's mighty power. Yan Ji, Zhao Jun, and the other saints landed not far behind Jun. They stared at the squirming heavenly insect in shock. This heavenly insect's aura is so powerful. It is much stronger than before, Yan Ji muttered. Even Lowe's, who was standing beside Zhuowen, revealed a grave expression. He said, "What exactly is this heavenly worm? Now, this damn thing's aura has already reached the Sky Saint realm. Its strength is dozens of times stronger than before." Sky Sacred Realm? Chao Rong and the others were shocked when they heard this. The Sky Saint stage was similar to the Mysterious Saint stage, and it was also divided into 4 stages. They were the Yin Heaven Saint stage, the Yang Heaven Saint stage, the Sky Saint stage, and the Heaven Defying Saint stage. Among them, the Sky Saint stage was the 3rd Sky Saint stage in the Sky Saint stage. Those who could reach the Sky Saint stage were all heroes of a region. Such an existence had never appeared in the Eastern lands in the past 10,000 years. Only the distant Middle lands would have such a terrifying expert. One had to know that even the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong, and Chao Rong, who was sent by the Primal Chaos Temple, were only in the Yang Heaven Saint stage. A saint in the Yang Heaven Saint stage already stood at the peak of the Eastern lands and Southern Barbarian lands. The Sky Saint stage was basically a legendary existence in these two regions. In other words, it was difficult to see a Sky Saint stage saint in other regions except for the Middle Lands. Damn it, I let the heavenly insect devour Sapphire Shore and let his strength transform into the Sky Saint stage. This is really troublesome, Chao Rong cursed in a low voice. Although the Sky Saint stage and the Yang Heaven Saint stage were only one stage apart, the difference in strength was as huge as a chasm. In other words, in the Sky Saint stage, every step forward would cause a tremendous change in strength. This was also why Sapphire Shore and Yan Ji had felt fear when Zhou Tianzong appeared in the 9th Netherworld realm as a Yang Heaven Saint stage expert. The two of them seemed to only be one stage apart, but if they really fought, Zhou Tianzong could completely defeat Yan Ji and Sapphire Shore in a few moves. Even if the two of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to last long against Zhou Tianzong. Go test the heavenly insect's strength. I'll support you from behind. Chao Rong glanced at Zhuowen and ordered indifferently. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed into slits when he heard this. Is Chao Rong really using me as a tool? He actually wanted him to test the heavenly insect's strength? Lord Chao Rong, I'm not strong enough. It's better if you go test it. I'll support you from behind, Zhuowen said indifferently. What did you say? You dare to disobey my orders? Chao Rong flew into a rage and stared at Zhuowen with a ferocious expression. Disobeying your orders? I'm not your subordinate. What right do you have to order me around? Zhuowen said coldly. Originally, Wen didn't care about Chao Rong's previous matters because of the Chaos Temple. Now that Chao Rong had taken an inch and wanted a mile, it was no wonder that Zhuowen was furious. How dare you? Chao Rong screamed angrily, but he didn't attack in the end as he was afraid of Lowe's beside Zhuowen. Ha! What are you fighting for? Today, whether it's you, Chao Rong, Zhuowen, or the entire 9th Netherworld realm, all of you will die and become my nourishment. An insolent laughter rang out. The terrifying heavenly insect moved. It twisted its gigantic body, and the malevolent bone spikes on its back pierced through the void. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, with the heavenly insect as the center, countless bone spikes spread out in all directions of the 9th Netherworld realm. These bone spikes shot up into the sky, each of them tens of thousands of feet long and hundreds of feet thick. Quickly enter the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly as he looked at the bone spikes that were continuously extending towards him. He hurriedly retreated and at the same time, opened the door of the Azure Dragon Hall and took Yan Ji, Zhao Jun and the rest into the Azure Dragon Hall. At the same time, Yuan also retreated. He could feel that the bone spikes were unusual. At this moment, Long Tian had already led the Ryuka disciples out of the Dragon Netherworld realm. Zhuowen roared angrily and took Long Tian and the rest of the Ryuka disciples into the Azure Dragon Hall. After taking Long Tian and the rest of the Ryuka disciples, Zhuowen planned to retreat towards the divine Netherworld realm. Suddenly, a strong wind swept over and slammed into Zhuowen's back. Puchi! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and stared in disbelief at Chao Rong, who was laughing behind him. Arrogant brat, you actually dare to disregard my words. You deserve to die. I'll take your Azure Dragon Palace. A cold smile rose from the corners of Chao Rong's mouth. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was sent flying backwards by his attack, flying towards the bone spike that was rushing towards him. Despicable! Loza's face changed slightly. Looking at Zhuowen flying towards the bone spikes, he gritted his teeth and gave chase. Boom! 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 Countless bone spikes pierced through the void like the sharpest blades that could pierce through anything. Open! Zhuowen stabilized his body. Coincidentally, a thick bone spike pierced towards him. Zhuowen's face changed slightly and he stepped into the void. However, when Zhuowen entered the void, his face turned ugly. He discovered that the bone spikes were very strange. They could pierce through the void. The void passage was almost completely blocked by the bone spikes. In other words, the bone spikes had sealed the surrounding void. Zhuowen could not use the void law in this area. Numerous bone spikes shot toward Zhuowen from the void passage, forcing Zhuowen to immediately retreat from the void passage. However, the moment he retreated from the void, several more bone spikes shot towards him. Zhuan dodged sideways, but the bone spikes were too fast. One of the bone spikes brushed past his shoulder blade and pierced through it. What terrifying power! My saint body is actually unable to withstand a single blow from these bone spikes. It's like a piece of paper. Zhuowen hurriedly dodged as he clutched his injured shoulder. His expression was extremely unsightly. These bone spikes were too sharp. If his vital points were pierced by these bone spikes, he would probably die on the spot. The power of the Empyrean sacred realm is so terrifying. Isn't it much stronger than Qiao Rong? Zhuan was horrified. Boom, boom, boom. While Zhuan was dodging the bone spikes with difficulty, Lo's descended from the sky. He held the 18th mountain in his right hand and waved it out. The 18th mountain was extremely vast and terrifying. Wherever it passed, the indestructible bone spikes would be pushed back. Let's go. Lo's instantly descended beside Zhuowen and grabbed Zhuowen's right hand. He lifted Zhuowen up and immediately jumped into the air to escape from the bone spikes. Damn it, so many bone spikes. Not long after they escaped, Liao Si and Zhuowen discovered with unsightly expressions that hundreds of bone spikes had suddenly rushed towards them from behind, flying towards them in a densely packed manner. 18th Mountain and Sea's End. Lo's roared angrily. His right hand formed a seal and landed on the mountainside of the 18th mountain. The huge mountain actually grew crazily again. It almost stretched across the horizon and was hundreds of thousands of feet tall. It blocked behind the two of them. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Hundreds of bone spikes rushed over and bombarded the surface of the mountain, causing it to tremble violently. Go! Lo shouted. Zhuan didn't hesitate and immediately used the Void Law to escape into the void and disappear from the range of the bone spikes. When they reappeared, they were already far away from the range of the bone spikes. Return. Lo's waved his right hand and the 18th mountain returned to its original size. It buzzed and rushed over, landing not far in front of him. Looking at the mountain in front of him that was riddled with holes, Lo's face was a little gloomy. He didn't expect these bone spikes to be so terrifying that they actually caused some damage to his 18th mountain. Qiao Rong, you deserve to die. Zhuowen's gaze quickly fell on Qiao Rong not far away. He roared angrily and rushed towards Qiao Rong like an enraged tiger. At this moment, Qiao Rong was trying to refine the Azure Dragon Hall. When he saw Zhuowen and Lo's safely escape from the bone spikes, he immediately revealed a trace of surprise. Azure Dragon's might. The moment he rushed out, Zhuowen formed the Azure Dragon seal with both hands. Immediately, a terrifying pressure surged out of the Azure Dragon Hall. This pressure was so terrifying that it almost condensed into an extremely huge pale dragon in the air. The pale dragon swooped down and attacked Qiao Rong. Chapter 1507. Holy Treasure, Sun. You are very bold. I am a member of the Primal Chaos Temple. How dare you attack me? This is blasphemy to the Primal Chaos Temple. Qiao Rong's face was gloomy. 99 dazzling suns appeared around him again. The fiery aura on their surface gathered into a powerful aura. Boom! The 99 suns and the pale dragon collided. The sky and earth exploded, space collapsed, and the stars moved. Then, Qiao Rong retreated with an ugly expression. The dragon might that was released from the Azure Dragon Hall was a little beyond his expectations. Even he could not compete with it. Today, even if you are the emperor, I will beat you up until your mother can't recognize you. One leaped up and landed on the roof of the Azure Dragon Hall. He stared at Qiao Rong with murderous intent. He had never suffered such a great loss. If Lo's had not come in time, with his strength, he would not have been able to survive in the bone spike. Zhuan, don't make a mistake. The Primal Chaos Temple is not something you can afford to offend. Now that the heavenly insect is strong, we have to work together. Otherwise, the heavenly insect will take advantage of us. It will not be worth it. Qiao Rong tried to persuade Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered. Qiao Rong's actions were really disgusting. Previously, he had sneakily attacked Zhuowen and wanted to kill Zhuowen. Now that his plan had failed, He actually said such bullshit words about working together. This Chao Rong was really shameless. Senior Lowe's beat him up. Beat him to death. Zhuan could not be bothered with Chao Rong, who was trying to defend himself. He said to Lowe's. Lowe's grinned and said, "Even if you didn't say it, I would still beat this despicable person. If I don't beat this hypocrite up until his mother can't recognize him, I, Lowe's, am the 18th mountain god." Whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Lowe's waved his right hand and the 18th mountain gradually shrunk. In the end, it turned into a 2 feet long and 5 feet thick staff. The surface of this long rod was full of bumps and hollows, as if it was a rod formed from natural rocks. It appeared extremely inconspicuous, but its surface contained strange symbols. This 18th mountain is really something. The mountain god can actually use the power of this vast mountain as he pleases, Xiao He said with a strange look in her eyes as she sat on his shoulder. Rumble. Lowe's pulled out his right hand, and the long staff suddenly smashed out. The long staff whistled as it tore through the air, creating a terrifying sound of wind. When the staff struck out, a mountain appeared. Above the attack of the staff, the image of a vast mountain appeared. At first glance, it looked extremely terrifying. Chao Rong's expression was somewhat gloomy. This strike from Lowe's gave him a very heavy feeling. This strike didn't seem fancy, but it was powerful and heavy. The pressure he was under was extremely heavy. Rumble. However, Chao Rong wasn't afraid. He raised his hands and the 99 scorching suns flew out like countless hidden weapons. They smashed out one by one and landed on the staff, creating an ear-piercing explosion. "Get lost!" Lowe's shouted. He blocked with the long staff, and his attack suddenly changed. With the momentum of a storm, he struck out with the staff again and again. Every strike was able to shatter a scorching sun. Lowe's struck out 99 times in a breath's time. Countless shadows of the staff flashed and the 99 scorching suns around Chao Rong exploded into countless rays of golden light. Chao Rong retreated continuously and shouted coldly, "Bastard, you forced me to do this." As he spoke, Chao Rong took out a scroll from his chest. The scroll was jade in color, and both sides of the scroll were enshrouded with dense immortal qi. The immortal qi surged and transformed into the cries of dragons and phoenixes. The dragons and phoenixes flew together and complemented each other. What is this scroll? The aura on it is so terrifying. Zhuan looked at the scroll with a trace of surprise in his eyes. The aura on the scroll made him very wary. This is a Sky Saint Realm Saint treasure. It must have been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for a long time. That's why it has such terrifying power. Because it has been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for countless years, it probably contains a trace of that saint's saint essence. Once the saint essence is released, it's like a Sky Saint Realm Saint has personally come. It's extremely terrifying. While Zhuan was in a daze, Xiao He shouted and stared at the scroll. A saint treasure wasn't a saint artifact. In other words, the scroll wasn't a powerful saint artifact. It was just an ordinary scroll. However, it had been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for countless years, so it contained a trace of the Sky Saint Realm Saint's powerful saint essence. To put it bluntly, this trace of saint essence was the aura of a Sky Saint Realm Saint. When it was complete, it was enough to unleash the full power of a Sky Saint Realm Saint. Moreover, the saint essence in a saint treasure wasn't like a saint artifact. It couldn't be used indefinitely. After a certain number of uses, the saint treasure would become an ordinary item. It's like a Sky Saint Realm Saint has personally come? In other words, this scroll can completely deal with the sky insect. Hearing Xiao He's words, Bun was shocked. The Sky Saint Realm was much more terrifying than the Sky Saint Realm. From the sky insect in the distance, it could be seen how terrifying the Sky Saint Realm was. Although Lowe's had a Grand Completion Saint body, his Grand Completion Saint body hadn't reached a certain level. His strength was at most comparable to the peak of the Sky Saint Realm. It was a bit difficult for him to deal with a Sky Saint Realm. Therefore, when Chao Rong took out the scroll, Lowe's, who was holding the long rod, froze. He stared at the scroll in Chao Rong's hand with extreme fear. I really didn't expect you to have a saint treasure in your hands, Zhuowen said coldly. Chao Rong sneered and said, this scroll was originally used to deal with the sky insect, but now that you've forced me into a corner, I don't mind using it on you. The Primal Chaos Temple sent you to the Eastern Lands to deal with the sky insect, right? You actually overstepped your authority and wanted to use this to deal with me. If the sky insect takes advantage of this, you and I will both die, Zhuowen said coldly. Chao Rong's lips curled into a cold smile and continued, with such a big commotion in the Eastern Lands, it's impossible for the Primal Chaos Temple to not know. The sky insect is just a clone. It's no threat to the Primal Chaos Temple. But now you, a lowly commoner of the Eastern Lands, dare to disobey my orders. After killing you, it won't be too late to deal with the sky insect. Hearing this, Zhuowen's face turned ugly. This Chao Rong was too despicable. He was sure that the Primal Chaos Temple had given this Sky Saint Realm Saint treasure to Chao Rong not to deal with other people, but to deal with the sky insect. But this Chao Rong wanted to use this thing to deal with him for his own selfish reasons. It was really hateful. When Chao Rong and Jun were in a deadlock, a figure slowly descended and stood between the two of them. I say, the two of you look over there. The sky insect is transforming again, and its strength should have increased by a lot. If we don't join forces to stop it now, even if you take out this broken scroll, you might not be able to deal with the sky insect. The person standing between the two of them was none other than the Great Divine Academy's eldest senior brother, Yang Yi. At this moment, Yang Yi's eyes were drowsy, and his posture was languid. He was completely undeterred by the terrifying aura of the scroll in Chao Rong's hand. Who do you think you are? A mere pure profound Saint Realm ant dares to block my path? Get lost if you know what's good for you, or die. Chao Rong was overbearing, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Yang Yi in front of him. Zhuan quietly stared at Yang Yi without saying anything. Yang Yi had always given him a mysterious feeling. Although Yang Yi's aura was only at the pure profound Saint Realm, he didn't know why, but he felt that Yang Yi wasn't simple. This feeling was a strange intuition. Your temper is quite big. With such a big temper, be careful not to die suddenly. Yang Yi smiled and his eyes slowly narrowed. A sharp sword-like light faintly leaked out, causing Chao Rong's body to stiffen. Chao Rong came back to his senses and revealed an angry expression. He was actually frightened by a mere pure profound Saint Realm Jr. This was absolutely shameful. Get the hell away from me. Due to his anger, Chao Rong blasted out a palm that contained the terrifying power of the sun. It seemed to swallow the sun and moon, and collapse the void world. Be careful, Zhuan shouted. He took a step with his right foot, and the void law lingered around him as he escaped into the void, wanting to save Yang Yi. However, when the void law surged out and broke through the void, he found that the void around him had solidified, and he couldn't break through the void at all. You're just a little Sun Sky Saint Realm Jr. You dare to be so arrogant with the saint treasure of a Sky Saint Realm Saint? What a joke! When Zhuowen's figure froze in the air, a mighty voice that sounded like muffled thunder exploded in his ears. It shook his eardrums and caused them to hiss in pain. Soon after, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that when Chao Rong's palm landed a foot away from Yang Yi, it was as if time had stopped, stopping in the void. Void solidification? Looking at Chao Rong, who was frozen in the void, Jun couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. As someone who comprehended the void law, how could he not recognize the void solidification technique? He also knew this kind of offensive technique that used the void law, but its power wasn't so strong that it could freeze a Sky Saint Realm Saint on the spot. You shouldn't have attacked me with this palm. It's more suitable to attack Heavenly Insect. Yang Yi's eyes were indifferent. With a stomp of his right foot, the void around Chao Rong shattered and was annihilated. Then, the void on Heavenly Insect's back suddenly split open, and Chao Rong's figure appeared. His palm landed heavily on Heavenly Insect's back. Damn it, how dare you sneak attack me? I'm going to kill you. Heavenly Insect was caught off guard and grimaced in pain from Chao Rong's palm. He roared angrily, and the bone spikes on his back shot out one after another, shooting towards Chao Rong's vital points like thousands of arrows. At the same time, heavenly insects' densely packed thin legs came from all directions, sealing off Chao Rong's escape route. There was almost nowhere for Chao Rong to escape. Bastard, what's going on? Chao Rong obviously didn't expect this kind of change and fell into a daze for a moment. He was clearly in front of Zhuowen and Yang Yi a moment ago, and now he was on heavenly insects' back. This scene was simply too bizarre. Chapter 1508. Self-inflicted disaster. As the scroll opened, the cries of dragons and phoenixes soared into the sky. The images of dragons and phoenixes were as dense as raindrops as they scattered around Chao Rong. Boom, boom, boom. Countless bone spikes and slender legs danced in the air like hidden weapons as they landed on the defense of the dragons and phoenixes, resounding with clanging sounds. A vast and terrifying holy might sprinkled down, and an imposing figure walked out of the unfurled scroll. As the majestic phantom stepped out, the dragon and phoenix shadows bent down and landed at the phantom's feet. At this moment, it was as if the dragon and phoenix shadows were supporting the phantom as they stepped through the air. Rumble! The huge phantom suddenly waved its right hand, and the saint aura was vast and mighty, causing heaven and earth to collapse. As the palm slammed down, the bone spikes and slender legs were all annihilated into nothingness, and Tiangu retreated a few thousand feet in fear. A pair of blood-red eyes as big as copper bells stared at the scroll in Chao Rong's hand. A saint treasure nurtured by the sky saint level? Tiangu said in a low voice. Eldest senior brother? Zhuan stared at the calm Yang Yi in front of him, his eyes full of surprise. The void solidification technique just now was simply too powerful and terrifying. It had already exceeded the scope of the profound sage realm. Even Chao Rong, who was in the sun-sky sacred realm, had been teleported out without anyone noticing. This required a profound comprehension of the laws of the void. Earlier, when Jian Mu had teleported over and given him the 9 golden patterns of Saint Luck, he had suspected that Yang Yi might have the power of the void law. Now that an expert like Chao Rong had been teleported near Tiangu, this suspicion had become a reality. Junior brother Zhuan, why don't we watch a good show on the square platform of the Divine Spectre Realm? Yang Yi pointed at the square platform of the Divine Spectre Realm and smiled. Zhuan's eyes flashed. Although he had endless doubts in his heart, he knew that now was not the time to ask, so he finally nodded in agreement. With a wave of his sleeve, Yuan kept the Azure Dragon Palace into his spirit ring. Then, he brought Lowe's and followed behind Yang Yi, landing on the square platform where the Divine Spectre Realm was located. At this moment, the square platform of the Divine Nether Realm was already empty. Only Yang Yi stood alone at the edge of the square platform like a long sword. Yang Yi landed on one of the armchairs on the square stage and leaned lazily on it. He smiled at Zhuan and said, Junior brother Zhuan and this strong man, please take a seat. The show is about to begin. Take your time. Zhuan and Lowe's looked at each other. Although they were puzzled, they still followed Yang Yi's instructions and sat at a seat not far away. I know you still have a lot of questions, but after this show is over, I will explain them to you. Yang Yi lazily sat on the armchair, glancing at Zhuowen from the corner of his eyes as he said slowly. Hearing that, Zhuowen could only forcefully swallow the question he was about to ask. As for Liao Si, he was confused. After all, he didn't know Yang Yi, so he naturally didn't know anything about Yang Yi. However, Lowe's was extremely fearful of Yang Yi. He could feel the unusual aura coming from Yang Yi's body. Although the aura that Yang Yi revealed was only at the pure profound saint realm, Lowe's could feel a sense of threat coming from him. Moreover, this feeling was very strong. Normally speaking, only when facing an extremely terrifying enemy would one have this kind of feeling. Combined with Yang Yi's aura, which was not very strong, it gave Lowe's an extremely strange feeling. That Chao Rong fought the heavenly insect alone. He's really amazing. As expected of an expert from the Central Plains Chaos Temple. His strength is indeed terrifying, and his character is so noble. He dares to fight the heavenly insect alone for our 9 netherworld realm. Lord Chao Rong has the saint treasure of a sky saint realm saint. He should be able to completely eliminate the heavenly insect. I hope Lord Chao Rong can win. In the eyes of many creatures of the 9 netherworld realm who did not know what was going on could not help but sigh at Chao Rong's nobility. Many of them were grateful. When these words stopped in Chao Rong's ears, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He did not come out voluntarily, okay? He had no choice. Moreover, the heavenly insect's strength was too terrifying. It was already comparable to a supreme expert of the Sky Saint realm. Even if he had a saint treasure, it could not be used indefinitely. Therefore, at this moment, he was almost suppressed by the heavenly insect. The Chaos Temple actually gave you the saint treasure of a Sky Saint realm saint. It seems like you came with the mentality of killing me. The heavenly insect's powerful voice exploded in the 9 netherworld sky. Its red eyes were filled with brutality as it stared at Chao Rong. The heavenly insect had a deep hatred for everyone from the Chaos Temple, especially when it saw Chao Rong bring a saint treasure. This made the heavenly insect even more determined to kill Chao Rong. If Sapphire Shore had not taken the initiative to merge his power into the heavenly insect's body, the heavenly insect would not have been able to transform and raise its strength to the Sky Saint realm. If Chao Rong took out the saint treasure before it transformed, the heavenly insect might have been suppressed directly. Therefore, the heavenly insect planned to kill Chao Rong as soon as possible. As for Jun, it could take its time to deal with him. After all, the entire 9 netherworld realm and 9 netherworld sky were sealed by him. No one could escape. Boom! Boom! The heavenly insect roared, and densely packed bone spikes poured out of the void, almost covering half of 9 netherworld sky. Looking over, there were only densely packed bone spikes. Chao Rong's expression changed slightly, and surging saint power poured into the scroll. The scroll's surface exploded with a terrifying light, and the majestic shadow grew even larger. With a raise of its hand, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Boom! 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 The heavenly insect and the scroll's shadow fought, and the aftermath rippled like a rain of arrows, spreading across the entire 9 netherworld sky. The 9 netherworld realm, which existed on the 9 planets, trembled and swayed under the aftermath. The living beings in the netherworld realm only felt that the world was collapsing, and that it was the end of the world. There were even weak living beings who knelt on the ground, praying for the gods in their hearts to protect them. On the square platform of the divine netherworld, Yuan waved his sleeve, and a mighty force spread out, forming a sturdy light shield in front of the square platform. The aftermath of the battle did not affect Zhuowen and the others at all. As time passed, Chao Rong's expression became uglier and uglier. The light on the surface of the scroll in his hand became dimmer and dimmer, like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. The majestic shadow formed above the scroll was no longer as mighty as before. Countless dimness appeared on its surface, and it was even somewhat transparent, as if it was about to disappear at any time. Yuan, the heavenly insect is a disaster for your 9 netherworld realm. As people of the 9 netherworld realm, you actually did not come to fight the enemy with me. Are you still human? Chao Rong's expression was ugly, and he could not help but roar at the people sitting on the square platform of the divine netherworld realm. He was really afraid now. He knew that once the saint connotation released by the scroll disappeared, the scroll would become an ordinary object. At that time, there would really be nothing to protect him. Jun leaned on the armchair and said slowly, Lord Chao Rong is unparalleled. A mere heavenly insect will not be a problem for Lord Chao Rong. We will only be in the way if we go over, so I will be bold enough to watch the show. Impudent! Chao Rong's face turned green with anger. Although Zhuowen's words were polite, the ridicule in them was too strong. Chao Rong was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Lord Chao Rong, I do not dare to be impudent. Lord Chao Rong, you are unparalleled in the world, and you are also a member of the Primal Chaos Temple. I am only from a poor background, how would I dare to offend you? It's just that in my opinion, the heavenly insect is really not a problem for Lord Chao Rong. I do not dare to go over and get in the way. Zhuan was still leaning on the armchair. Unknowingly, he had taken out a teapot and teacups from his spirit ring. He poured 3 cups of tea each, picked up one of the cups, and quietly sipped the tea. His unperturbed appearance was simply too despicable. Not to mention Chao Rong, even Liao Si, who was beside him, wanted to teach Zhuo Wen a lesson. Clearly, Zhuo Wen was doing this on purpose. Everything that Chao Rong had done before had already caused Zhuo Wen to be filled with surging killing intent. On the other hand, Yang Yi gave Zhuo Wen an exaggerated thumbs up. Naturally, Chao Rong saw it very clearly. To him, this was simply adding fuel to the fire. Ah, is there no one in the 9th netherworld realm? If the heavenly insect is not exterminated, your 9th netherworld realm will also be finished. Seeing that the brilliance on the surface of the scroll was getting dimmer and dimmer, Chao Rong was desperate and could not help but shout loudly. If no one came to help him now, he would definitely die. Lord Chao Rong is a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, and the heavenly insect is the source of disaster. Let's help Lord Chao Rong together. That's right. Everyone has the right to kill the heavenly insect. Let's go together. Chao Rong's words were immediately echoed by many people. Many sectless rogue cultivators of the 9th netherworld realm were stirred up and rushed out. Moreover, most of these rogue cultivators were half-sages, and the weakest was an invincible sovereign lord. Zhuan could even see a few saints with relatively strong cultivation. This group of idiots. It's fine if they go to die, but are they planning to give nourishment to the heavenly insect? Looking at the many rogue cultivators who had rushed out, how could he not know what these rogue cultivators were planning? They were probably using the excuse of helping Chao Rong to establish a relationship with Chao Rong so that they could enter the Primal Chaos Temple. The Primal Chaos Temple was a famous force in the Central Plains. Even in the remote Eastern Plains, many cultivators had heard of it. It could be seen how difficult it was to enter the Primal Chaos Temple. And to be able to enter the Primal Chaos Temple, one would undoubtedly have a boundless future. Becoming a profound sage, heavenly sage, or even a celestial sage would not be a dream. All of you get lost. Even Lord Chao Rong can't deal with the heavenly insect. You're just going to die if you go. Zhuo Wen suddenly jumped up. Out of kindness, and in order to prevent the heavenly insect from growing stronger, Zhuo Wen finally decided to stop these rogue cultivators who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Who do you think you are? The heavenly insect has already sealed the entire 9th netherworld realm. Now, the entire 9th netherworld realm should be united against a common enemy and help Lord Chao Rong defeat the heavenly insect. But you're stopping us. Do you have some wild ambition? Or are you an accomplice of the heavenly insect? Chapter 1509. Hongguang Old Man Zhuo Wen's eyes flashed with a sharp light. With a wave of his right hand, the terrifying saint energy turned into a huge golden palm. The golden palm shot out like a sharp arrow and instantly rushed into the countless rogue cultivators who had gathered at the edge of 9 nether heaven. Ah! A scream rang out. The golden palm pointed at a middle-aged man with a sinister gaze. At this moment, the middle-aged man's eyes were filled with horror. He did not expect Zhuo Wen to attack him directly. Open up! The middle-aged man shouted loudly. The law lingered around his body as his saint energy gushed out and condensed into a huge hand. However, when the two huge hands collided, the huge hand formed by the middle-aged man's saint energy instantly collapsed. The middle-aged man was pinched in the huge hand like a chick. Hecklers die. Zhuo Wen spat out these words and squeezed the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man groaned and was directly crushed into pieces. Seeing Zhuo Wen's ruthless means, the rogue cultivators gasped and kept quiet out of fear. They had seen how terrifying Zhuo Wen's strength was in 9 nether heaven. This person had passed the saint tribulation and his cultivation had advanced to the glimpse profound saint stage. His combat strength was comparable to a Een Sky saint stage saint. Coupled with the celestial saint artifact in his hand, this person was absolutely terrifying. Ordinary saints were no match for this person at all. Scram if you don't want to die. Zhuo Wen's killing intent was awe-inspiring as he stared at the rogue cultivators in front of him. He knew that these rogue cultivators were hidden powerhouses in the various nether realms. They had kept a low profile in the various nether realms. Now that the 9 nether realm had undergone a great change, these hidden powerhouses had finally come out. However, although these hidden powerhouses were strong enough, they could not be stronger than the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall, Sapphire Shore. The middle-aged man who had heckled just now was a glimpse profound saint like Chun. However, he could not withstand a single blow from Juan. "Junior, aren't you too arrogant?" Suddenly, an inconspicuous figure walked out from the crowd of rogue cultivators. The figure was stooped and held a walking stick in his right hand. He was over 70 years old and was trembling as if he would fall at any moment. When this inconspicuous old man came out, the surrounding rogue cultivators quieted down. "It's the Rainbow Light Old Man." Who would have thought that the Rainbow Light Old Man would still be alive after 3,000 years? 3,000 years ago, the Rainbow Light Old Man fought against the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall, Sapphire Shore. In the end, he was defeated and disappeared. Who would have thought that he had hidden himself from the world for 3,000 years? 3,000 years ago, the Rainbow Light Old Man was an expert who competed with the Sapphire Shore for supremacy. Now that 3,000 years have passed, I'm afraid his cultivation base has deteriorated. Sounds of discussion rang out as the surrounding cultivators whispered to each other, their eyes filled with awe. "Rainbow Light Old Man?" Juan narrowed his eyes as he stared at the old man who was like a candle flickering in the wind. This old man was so old that he could enter a coffin at any moment. He was actually a peerless figure who competed with the Sapphire Shore for supremacy 3,000 years ago. "I don't need to tell you the dangers of the sky worm. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but the sky worm is too powerful. It's useless for you to go over. You'll only strengthen the sky worm," Juan said indifferently. The Rainbow Light Old Man's eyes were deep as he said, "Are you going to wait for the sky worm to kill Lord Chao Rong before devouring the countless living beings in the 9th Netherworld realm? Do you have a better idea?" "Yes, why wouldn't I?" Juan said slowly. "How arrogant. Junior, get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." The Rainbow Light Old Man slammed his walking stick on the ground. A terrifying aura surged out from the Rainbow Light Old Man's body like a volcano erupting. "Since that's the case, I'll have to beat you down before I can convince you." Juan's eyes were cold as a crack appeared between his eyebrows. There, the Buddha demon eye slowly opened. Golden light and black light intertwined, revealing a mysterious luster. The Buddha demon eye was inherited from the fighting Buddha demon saint. After the Buddha and demon clones broke through to the saint realm, they reformed into the Buddha demon eye. Among them, the Buddha's 9 kowtows and the demon's 10 perilous lands were inherited. When the two were combined, their power was extremely terrifying. "Junior, you're just a glimpse saint. Although your combat strength is indeed extraordinary, a profound saint is still a profound saint. There's a huge gap between you and a heavenly saint. Today, I'll teach you a good lesson." With that, a terrifying aura erupted from the Rainbow Light Old Man's body. At the same time, thousands of rainbow lights swept out from the void behind him, forming a long rainbow bridge. It was extremely majestic. The Rainbow Light Old Man has mastered the law of rainbow light. Judging from his aura, he should be in the Sky Saint realm. This kind of cultivation is enough to crush all profound saints. When the countless rainbow lights erupted and formed a long rainbow bridge in the void, many rogue cultivators in the surroundings retreated. Their pupils shrank, and they didn't dare to casually approach. "Junior, I won't kill you. I'll only use 3 moves. If you can block them, this old man will immediately retreat. If you can't, this old man will also hold back. This time, I'm just teaching you a lesson." The Rainbow Light Old Man indifferently glanced at Juan. He stretched out his skinny hand and suddenly pressed down. The countless rainbow bridges fell from the sky and smashed towards Juan like meteors. This scene made many rogue cultivators shudder with fear. Their faces paled. The full-strength attack of a Sky Saint was indeed terrifying. It wasn't something that ordinary people could withstand. Juan raised his head and stared at the falling rainbow bridges. The Buddha demon eye between his eyebrows flickered with golden and black light. The Buddha's 9 kowtows to the heavens. First kowtow to the heavens. Endless Buddha light rushed out of the Buddha demon eye, and a terrifying Buddha shadow appeared behind Jun. This Buddha shadow squinted its eyes and put its right hand together. A huge halo appeared behind its head, emitting endless golden light like a scorching sun. The Buddha figure suddenly kowtowed to the sky, and a Buddha palm blasted out, facing the countless rainbow bridges that covered the sky and covered the earth. Boom! This knock seemed as if even the sky was about to collapse. The rainbow light bridge that covered the sky and covered the earth froze in the void as if time had stopped. What? The rainbow light old man turned pale with fright. It was as if he had seen a ghost. His attack had been blocked just like that. You have some strength. The rainbow light old man became serious. He clenched his right hand again, and endless rainbow light rushed out of his body, forming even more rainbow bridges that crushed toward Jun. Buddha kowtows 9 times to the heavens. The second kowtow envies the heavens. Zhuowen slowly chanted. The huge Buddha shadow kowtowed once again, and a supreme Buddha voice resounded throughout the world. It was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. The entire sky began to crack. Crack. Soon after, the densely packed rainbow light bridges collapsed into nothingness. The rainbow light old man let out a muffled groan and took a dozen steps back. His turbid old eyes were filled with both shock and fury. What? The rainbow light old man lost? Isn't that too fast? The surrounding people were in an uproar. The rogue cultivators who were looking forward to the rainbow light old man teaching Jun a lesson were all stunned. Although the rainbow light old man had only mastered the law of rainbow light, he was still a saint of the Een Sky Saint realm. His cultivation level was 1 level higher than Zhuowen's. How could he lose in this exchange? Heroes come from the young. Looks like I'm really old. The rainbow light old man seemed to have aged 10 years after stabilizing his body. He took a deep look at Zhuowen, sighed, and left 9 nether heaven. The moment the rainbow light old man left, the rogue cultivators who had gathered scattered like birds and beasts, not daring to stay in front of Jun. After dismissing these rogue cultivators who wanted to curry favor with Chao Rong, Yuan returned to his seat on the square platform of the divine nether realm. Yuan, do you really have a way to deal with this sky worm? Lowe's asked curiously. This sky worm was indeed amazing. It was very powerful, and it seemed to have the terrifying ability to devour martial artists for its own use. It was an extremely troublesome thing. Yes, this kid does have a way to deal with the sky worm. Before Zhuowen could speak, Yang Yi spoke up. He stared at Zhuowen with a smile and continued, Junior brother Zhuowen, with your current arcane realm, it's not enough to unleash the power of the slaughter of the god of war. If possible, I can help you. As soon as these words came out, Zhuowen suddenly stood up and stared at Yang Yi. Vast saint might surrounded his body, as if he was on guard against Yang Yi at all times. Junior brother Zhuowen, don't be so nervous. I've said that I'll tell you the truth when the time comes. Anyway, all you need to know now is that you and I are not enemies, Yang Yi said unhurriedly. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and he nodded skeptically. Then he sat down on his seat. He really could not figure out how Yang Yi knew that he had the slaughter of the god of war. This slaughter of the god of war was naturally given to him by the Bai Feng. It had a great restraining effect on the sky worm, and the power of the slaughter of the god of war was also very terrifying. However, the slaughter of the god of war was quite mysterious. Zhuowen had been comprehending it before, so he had not used it. Other than the Bai Feng and him, there should not be a third person who knew that he had the slaughter of the god of war. But how could he not be surprised when Yang Yi suddenly spoke about the slaughter of the god of war? However, when he thought of all the things that Yang Yi had done before, he also knew that Yang Yi had no intention of harming him. Instead, he was helping him. Who are you? Zhuowen stared at Yang Yi and asked cautiously. You'll find out soon. The good show is about to end. Don't miss it. Yang Yi smiled and pointed at the battle in the center of 9 Serenities heaven. At this moment, the sky worm was becoming more and more violent. Every strike was able to break through the 9 Serenities small worlds. On the other hand, Chao Rong was extremely miserable. The saint connotation in the scroll was almost exhausted, and the illusory image of the sky sage had also become transparent, as if it would collapse at any time. Yun, you little bastard. I, Chao Rong, will not let you go even if I become a ghost. When the illusory figure was finally blasted into smithereens by the heavenly worm, Chao Rong let out an unwilling roar towards the sky. The scroll in his hand also shattered into pieces, and countless bone spikes pierced through his body. Chapter 1510. The War God Atlas's Might Whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh. The moment Chao Rong exploded into a bloody mist, countless tentacles rushed over and absorbed the bloody mist. How delicious! Chao Rong's flesh and blood is so delicious. As expected of a saint from the sun-sky saint realm. Tiangu grinned and laughed. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. The bone spurs on his back shook violently as if they were expressing the excitement in his heart. After absorbing Chao Rong's flesh and blood, Tiangu's aura became even more terrifying and vast, almost reaching the peak of the sky saint realm. The entire 9 netherworld heaven was filled with terrifying pressure. This pressure came from the heavenly insect. Countless creatures in the 9th netherworld realm trembled under this terrifying pressure, their hearts filled with fear. Tiangu's body was several times bigger than before. It was even bigger than Xiao Hei's 100,000 feet long dragon body. Chao Rong is dead. Jun narrowed his eyes. He first glanced at Tiangu in the distance, then his attention fell on Yang Yi as if he was asking for his opinion. Yang Yi was very mysterious and not simple. Moreover, he knew that he had the War God Atlas. He knew that Yang Yi must know how to deal with Tiangu. Yun, I promised Sapphire Shore that I would torture you to death. After killing you, countless creatures in the 9 netherworld realm will become my nourishment. The celestial insect laughed loudly. His laughter was like thunder, rumbling like a great bell, exploding in the ears of countless creatures. It was extremely ear-piercing. At this moment, Tiangu's heart was filled with pride. His strength had reached the peak of the sky saint realm. He knew very well that if he devoured all the creatures in the 9 netherworld realm, he would transform again. At that time, his strength would probably reach the heaven-defying saint realm. The heaven-defying saint realm was the last minor realm of the sky saint realm. Once one reached this realm, they would have heaven-defying saint power. A saint whose cultivation base could reach the heaven-defying saint realm was a highly respected existence even in the central region. Of course, even if Tiangu's strength had reached the heaven-defying saint realm, he still didn't dare to go to the Chaos Temple in the central region. As one of the top forces in the central region, the Chaos Temple might have a terrifying saint realm expert. Even though celestial saint-level experts rarely appeared in the central plains, and even their whereabouts were hard to track down, celestial saint-level experts were extremely rare. However, that didn't mean they didn't exist. Tiangu knew that the Chaos Temple had more than one expert saint realm. Without sufficient preparation, Tiangu. There were too many saint realm experts, and the Chaos Temple's influence was too. Was the Chaos Temple? There was a huge risk of being captured if they entered the central plains. Boom boom. Boom. Tiangu's Tiangu was world sky saint realm sky heaven world that studio was world studio realm. Studio. Tian studio wherever Tian realm studio. Tian 9. Heaven saint realm. Was a. Realm. Was realm. Junior brother Zhuowen, summon your dragon soul. Let's charge forward and get rid of this little bug. Yang Yi crossed his legs and said calmly to Zhuowen. Senior brother Yang Yi, are you sure you can deal with Tiangu? He just devoured Chao Rong. His strength is comparable to a saint at the peak of the sky saint realm. A sky saint realm saint was terrifying enough. Even Zhuowen wasn't a match for a sky saint realm saint. However, Yang Yi appeared to be extremely confident. This caused Zhuowen to be extremely puzzled. What are you afraid of? Also, don't forget to summon the Divine War Atlas. The Heavenly Worm avatar has been sealed by the Divine War Atlas for hundreds of thousands of years. The Divine War Atlas can seal the Heavenly Worm avatar again, Yang Yi said calmly. Zhuowen took a deep look at Yang Yi before he nodded and said, "All right." As he spoke, a black light burst out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows. The black light soared into the sky and turned into a black dragon. "Come on up, Jianmu." Wen jumped on the dragon's head and called out to Loz and Yang Yi. At the same time, his eyes fell on Jianmu. It wasn't that Zhuowen didn't want to call out to Jianmu, but Jianmu was only a half-step saint. In front of Tiangu, his cultivation was as small as an ant. "It's okay. Jianmu can stay by my side. Tiangu can't hurt him." Yang Yi laughed and led Jianmu onto the dragon's head. Loz followed closely behind. The black dragon roared, and the dragon's roar soared into the sky. The dragon's body twisted and soared into the sky, creating a 10,000-foot-long tornado. It was terrifying. "How dare you take the initiative to come up? You're courting death." Tiangu sneered. The bone spurs on his back pierced into the void. Instantly, the bone spurs spread out like weeds. It looked terrifying. Boom! Blackie roared angrily and swung its dragon tail. Those bone spikes were swept away like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. The Abyss Saint Dragon was an ancient existence. The remaining wisp of his soul became Zhuowen's dragon soul. Now that Zhuowen had reached the Saint Realm, the Abyss Saint Dragon had finally transformed. Although it wasn't as majestic as before, it was still much stronger than before. Boom, boom, boom. After shattering the countless bone spikes in the surroundings, the heavenly insect's huge body suddenly charged over. Blackie was caught off guard and was hit head-on. He retreated several tens of thousands of feet. Slaughter of the God of War. Yang Yi waved his sleeve, and a mighty force spread out around the dragon's head. The people who were swaying suddenly found their footing. Zhuowen knew that Yang Yi was mysterious and powerful. Naturally, he didn't dare to be careless. With a flick of his finger, he summoned the slaughter of the God of War. Boom, boom, boom. Massive steels fell from the sky. There were a total of 16 steels. Each steel had mysterious runes drawn on its surface. A mysterious aura leaked out from the steels. That old bastard Bai Feng's slaughter of the God of War? Tiangu's body stiffened. He stared at the 16 steels floating in the void with some fear. Back when he was trapped in the Emperor's tomb by Bai Feng had used the slaughter of the God of War to suppress his core origin. Therefore, Tiangu still had some lingering fear when he saw the slaughter of the God of War again. Humph! Bai Feng is only a profound Saint Master. My clone was too weak back then. That's why that guy was able to seal it. Sky Worm regained his senses, his eyes glinting fiercely. His current strength was much stronger than before. Even a Sky Sage Realm Saint might not be able to take him down, let alone a mere war god Tu Lu. Although Bai Feng is only a profound Saint Master, he has spent a lot of effort on the slaughter of the God of War. This thing is more than enough to suppress you. Yang Yi stomped his foot and landed on the steel in the center of the 16 steels as if he had teleported. A strange look appeared in his eyes. War of heaven, war of earth, war of time. This is the war god of heaven and earth. It can be said to be immortal, Yang Yi murmured. He stomped his right foot. Immediately, the runes on the surface of the steel emitted a dazzling light. The light became brighter and brighter. Finally, the 15 steels that surrounded the central steel suddenly soared into the sky and fell toward Tiangu. Humph! A mere slaughter of the God of War dares to stop me? Tiangu coldly snorted. His blood-red eyes were filled with disdain. He suddenly swatted and countless thin legs shot out. They formed a large hand that blotted out the sky and heavily smashed towards the 15 stone tablets that were rushing over. However, as the 15 steels fell, they were arranged in a strange trajectory. The runes on their surface released a strange energy. The 15 steels were connected by the power of the runes. If one looked closely, the 15 steels combined to form a vast and terrifying shadow of the God of War behind them. Rumble! The shadow of the god of war also extended a giant hand and swept toward Tiangu's giant hand. It had the power to cover the sky and cover the sun. When the two giant hands collided, there was a loud explosion. The aftermath of the annihilation spread out. The surrounding 9 netherworlds were affected and trembled violently. Crack, crack. The Night Netherworld realm and the Martial Netherworld realm, which were closest to the battle, shook even more violently. Then, cracks began to appear on their surfaces. The cracks grew larger and larger. In the end, the 2 netherworlds collapsed. Countless creatures screamed and disappeared with the netherworlds. However, the powerful martial warriors of the 2 netherworld realms had foresight and had already retreated from the 2 netherworld realms. They had avoided this calamity, but they were not in a good state either. They were all more or less injured. The collapse of the 2 netherworlds shocked the other netherworlds. In an instant, many cultivators who could step out of 9 nether heaven left their netherworlds in fear. The Night Netherworld realm and the Martial Netherworld realm have collapsed. Most of the creatures inside are dead. Go and protect the other 7 netherworlds. Otherwise, the other netherworlds will also be in danger. Yang Yi transmitted his voice to Zhuowen. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes turned cold. He leaped and directed Xiao He to the other netherworlds. Xiao He's huge dragon body stood in front of the 7 netherworlds to protect them. Boom, boom, boom. Tiangu and the shadow of the god of war continued to fight. The terrifying aftermath of the battle spread out wildly, shaking countless creatures in 9 nether heaven. You don't understand the true power of the slaughter of the god of war. Tiangu. Yang Yi's eyes turned solemn. He stomped his right foot again. Under his control, the 16th stone tablet flew out and hit the shadow of the god of war heavily. Boom. In an instant, the shadow of the god of war's power increased by hundreds or thousands of times. Its body was more than 100,000 feet long. Crack. Tiangu's giant hand collapsed. The shadow of the god of war's giant hand crushed Tiangu like a hot knife through butter. Boom. Boom. Chapter 1511. The truth is revealed. How can the slaughter of the god of war be so terrifying? The heavenly insect struggled with all its might, its sharp screeches lingering in everyone's ears. Its voice was filled with fear, and the more it struggled, the tighter the light from the runes that shot out from the 16 stone tablets became. That depends on who has it. It's only so powerful because it's in my hands. Yang Yi descended from the sky like a peerless overlord. His gaze was as cold as a blade as he stomped his right foot on the stone steel. The runes on the surface of the stone steel glowed brightly, and the heavenly worm was constricted tightly, unable to move at all. Yun was stunned when he saw this scene. The slaughter of the god of war could unleash such terrifying power in Yang Yi's hands. Moreover, Yun discovered that the slaughter of the god of war that Yang Yi unleashed was even more terrifying than the Baifeng's. So powerful, Lo's muttered in a low voice. Only Jian Mu, who was standing not far away from Zhuowen, remained expressionless. Even his gaze didn't fluctuate. Yang Yi formed a complicated and mysterious seal with his hands. Then, the 16 neatly arranged stone tablets swelled dozens of times in size. They stacked on top of each other and formed a stone coffin that was 100,000 feet wide. Yang Yi leaped onto the stone coffin and pressed his right palm against the surface of the stone coffin. A vast and mighty force spread out, and the huge stone coffin began to shrink continuously. Finally, it became the size of a palm and landed on Yang Yi's palm. After doing all this, Yang yawned lazily and leaped in front of Zhuowen and the others. The heavenly worm was dealt with just like that? Zhuowen asked in disbelief. Yang Yi said lazily, "It's not completely dealt with. This thing's regenerative ability is too strong. It can't be completely eradicated. It can only be sealed." Hearing this, Zhuowen's gaze fell on Yang Yi's palm. He knew that the insufferably arrogant heavenly worm was sealed inside the stone coffin. What surprised him even more was that the slaughter of the god of war actually turned into a stone coffin. This was something he didn't expect. "Yun, this battle god catalog has a heavenly insect sealed within it, so I'm afraid I can't give it to you right now." How about this? I'll compensate you with a holy artifact of the same value. Yang Yi suddenly said to Zhuan. Holy treasure? What level of holy treasure? Zhuan asked in surprise. The Yang Yi in front of him was too mysterious. After the battle with the heavenly insect, he knew that Yang Yi's identity was definitely not simple. It should not be strange that he had a sacred treasure. Yang Yi didn't say anything. He took out a palm-sized tile from his sleeve and tossed it to Zhuan. Looking at the tile in his hand, the veins on Zhuan's forehead bulged. This ordinary tile was actually a holy treasure. Were they kidding him? Thinking of this, Zhuan was about to fly into a rage when Yang Yi slowly said, "This tile has existed in the seclusion place of a heaven-defying saint for tens of thousands of years. It is filled with the saint's saint essence, and its power is extremely extraordinary." The holy artifact of a heaven-defying saint? Zhuan was stunned, surprised, and delighted. He urged his saint power and poured it into the tile. Suddenly, countless saint inscriptions on the surface of the tile intertwined, and a vast saint power soared into the sky. The ninth serenity heaven was almost pierced by this saint power, and countless golden rain burst out, bright and gorgeous. In the endless golden rain, a majestic and terrifying phantom stepped out. This phantom had the demeanor of an immortal, but its facial features were blurry. Its hands were behind its back, and it was motionless like a mountain, but it had a terrifying aura that deterred the world. As soon as this phantom appeared, countless creatures in the ninth serenity realm knelt on the ground. The power of a heaven-defying saint was not something that anyone could withstand. Even Zhuan felt a terrifying pressure the moment this phantom appeared. His knees bent slightly, and there was a metallic taste in his throat. So terrifying, this is the power of a heaven-defying saint, so strong. The heavenly worm's power was already terrifying enough, but the majestic figure that came out of the tile was much more terrifying than the heavenly worm. Zhuan knew that this was the power of a heaven-defying saint, which was much more terrifying than a sky saint. However, what surprised Zhuan even more was that Yang Yi was able to take out this tile. Yang Yi was only the eldest disciple of the Fine Gods Institute, so how could he take out such a terrifying saint artifact? Moreover, the terrifying power that he displayed when he suppressed the heavenly worm was truly earth-shattering. This tile should be enough to exchange for your war god atlas, right? Yang Yi said with a smile. Yes, it's enough. Zhuan nodded slightly, but hesitated. I know you have a lot of questions in your heart. Go sit on the square platform first, and I'll slowly explain them to you, Yang Yi said with a smile. All right. Thus, the four of them returned to their seats on the square platform. Countless creatures in the ninth netherworld realm heaved a sigh of relief when they discovered that the heavenly worm was suppressed. Zhuan and Yang Yi's names spread like wildfire to the surroundings. Many creatures in the ninth netherworld realm even worshipped Zhuan and Yang Yi as their saviors. Of course, all of this was in the future. Who exactly are you? As soon as he sat down, Zhuan immediately asked the question that had been in his heart for a long time. Don't you have any guesses? Yang Yi smiled slightly and gently clenched his right hand. Countless cracks appeared in the void beside his armrest, like a spider web. As far as I know, in the Fine Gods Institute, there was once a senior who comprehended the void celestial scripture and mastered the void law. Zhuan stared at Yang Yi and said word by word, and this senior's name is Yuanji. Yang Yi's lips curled into a smile, and his smile was like 100 flowers blooming. In the end, he looked up to the sky and laughed loudly, his laughter becoming more and more unbridled. What are you laughing at? Zhuan frowned slightly and asked. Yang Yi is me, and Yuanji is also me. Yang Yi stopped laughing and said unfathomably. Back then Yuanji was you, and now Yang Yi is also you. Then who are you? Zhuan felt that Yang Yi's words were strange and couldn't help but ask. Back then, I did enter the Fine Gods Institute with the identity of Yuanji. My purpose was to comprehend the void celestial scripture. Later on, I succeeded in comprehending the void law, so I left. Yang Yi smiled and continued, 20 years ago, I entered the Fine Gods Institute again. This time, my identity is Yang Yi. This time, I came with a mission. What mission? Zhuowen asked. Take away the heavenly worm avatar. This is my mission as Yang Yi, Yang Yi said indifferently. Hearing that, Zhuowen's frown deepened. He realized that Yang Yi's words didn't reach the main point, and he was even a little confused. In other words, Yang Yi and Yuan Ji are both you, but they are your aliases? And your mission is to take away the heavenly worm avatar. Then you are also from the Primal Chaos Temple? Zhuowen's gaze hardened. Unexpectedly, Yang Yi waved his hand and said with a smile, I am not a member of the Primal Chaos Temple. If I were, do you think I would help you send Chao Rong, that scum, to Tiangu? However, taking away the heavenly worm avatar was indeed entrusted to me by a big shot from the Primal Chaos Temple. I don't know where that trash Chao Rong got the news from, but he came purely to steal the credit. At this point, Yang Yi's lips curled into a cold smile. Clearly, this guy had come with the goal of tricking Chao Rong. However, thinking about it, Yang Yi had come to the Eastern Land 20 years ago to take away the heavenly worm. Now that Chao Rong had come, he wanted to steal his target. It would be strange if Yang Yi was happy. Also, the Primal Chaos Temple isn't the only big force in the Central Land. It's just that the Primal Chaos Temple is the oldest among the big forces in the Central Land. Now, there are many new forces in the Central Land that are not much weaker than the Primal Chaos Temple. For example, the 9 Holy Talisman clans are huge forces at the same level as the Primal Chaos Temple. In addition, there are the 4 major battlefield forces that are not much weaker, Yang Yi said lazily. The 9 Holy Talisman clans? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect the 9 Holy Talisman clans to exist in the Central Land. Although he didn't know much about the 9 Holy Talisman clans, from the name alone, he could tell that the 9 Holy Talisman clans were powerful forces that had inherited the 9 Holy Talisman clans. When you were refining the Ice Flame Holy Talisman in the Ice and Fire Dual Pole Palace, you should have met that guy, right? You were lucky that he didn't succeed in taking over your body. In the end, you succeeded in refining the Ice Flame Holy Talisman's origin. Yang Yi's sudden words made Zhuowen's heart skip a beat. He stared at Yang Yi sharply. He didn't know why Yang Yi knew that he had taken the Ice Flame Holy Talisman and that there was a powerful nascent soul in the origin of the Holy Talisman who wanted to take over his body. Don't be so vigilant. I don't mean you any harm. Back then, I extracted all the remaining ice and fire energy in the Ice and Fire Dual Pole Palace and transferred it to you. Have you forgotten? Yang Yi said with a smile. You were the mysterious man back then? Zhuowen was stunned. Then he suddenly understood. Although he didn't see the mysterious man's real body, he knew that he had mastered the law of void. Yang Yi also mastered the law of void. Therefore, when the two were combined, it was obvious that the mysterious man was Yang Yi. Your reaction is quite fast. You owe me a lot. It's only right that you return the War God catalog to me. Yang Yi smiled and continued. The poor nascent soul that merged with the Ice Flame Holy Talisman's origin was a core disciple of the Ice and Fire clan, one of the 9 Holy Talisman clans. This guy was obsessed with the Ice Flame Holy Talisman. He stole the Ice Flame Holy Talisman from his clan and fled. However, the Ice Flame Holy Talisman is the core treasure of the Ice and Fire clan. Not long after this guy stole it, he was chased by several heavenly saints of the Ice and Fire clan. Even an old celestial saint from the Ice and Fire clan used extraordinary means to capture most of the Ice Flame Holy Talisman's origin. Chapter 15:12. Descending into the dragon spirit realm, Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect that the nascent soul stage cultivator on the 18th level of the Ice and Fire Dual Polarity Palace was a core disciple of the Ice and Fire clan, one of the 9 great Saint Talisman clans of the Central region. He also did not expect that the disciple of the Ice and Fire clan would be so obsessed with stealing the Ice and Fire sacred talisman. Moreover, from Yang Yi's words, one could tell that the Ice and Fire clan had a terrifying Celestial Sage Old Monster. The Celestial Sage Old Monster was a legendary existence in the Eastern region, which did not even have a sky saint stage saint. It was an unreachable existence. Since the Ice and Fire clan had a celestial sage old monster, it was not hard to imagine that the other 8 great Saint Talisman clans, the 4 major battlefields, and the famous chaotic divine temple would also have such a terrifying existence. The Ice and Fire dual polarity palace's Ice and Fire sacred talisman is also incomplete? Zhuan asked with an ugly expression. Zhuan did not expect that the Ice and Fire sacred talisman he had painstakingly found was also incomplete. Moreover, from Yang Yi's words, most of the origin of the Ice and Fire sacred talisman had been captured by the celestial sage old monster in the Ice and Fire clan. In other words, the Ice and Fire sacred talisman in his hands was only a small part. At the same time, he also thought of the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman on him. He had obtained the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman from the ancient cave mansion, and the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman was also part of the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman. Could it be that the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman's Wind and Thunder sacred talisman was in the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman in the central region? Although he had many questions about the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman, he did not ask Yang Yi. Yang Yi already knew that he had the Ice and Fire sacred talisman. If he revealed the Wind and Thunder sacred talisman, Yang Yi might be tempted. Of course it's not complete. If that guy could bring out the complete Ice and Fire sacred talisman, he wouldn't have ended up as a talisman spirit. Yang Yi shook his head and continued, most of the Ice-Fire holy symbols are still in the Ice-Fire family. However, if you head to the Middle Continent, you'd better be careful of the Ice-Fire clan. The theft of the Ice-Fire Saint Talisman is an extremely humiliating matter for that clan. And for so many years, they've been searching for the stolen part of the holy symbol of Ice-Fire. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I think it's best if you use the power of the holy symbol of Ice-Fire cautiously in the Central Plains. Zhuan nodded solemnly. Although he had never seen the Ice-Fire clan before, he knew that they were not a force he could afford to offend. That's right, senior brother Yang Yi, I saw you give me the Holy Talisman Basic Usage Manual. Could it be that you also have a Holy Talisman on you? Zhuan asked curiously. Yang Yi smiled faintly and did not answer Zhuan's question. When the latter saw Yang Yi's attitude, he knew that the former did not want to reveal this matter. After all, this matter was considered a private matter. Then, I've already told you what I need to tell you. I'll be leaving the Eastern lands soon. I hope you won't tell Yan Ji and the other old men about me. Otherwise, it will give me a headache, Yang Yi suddenly said. Zhuan nodded and said, Senior brother Yang Yi, don't worry. I won't gossip about this matter. That's good. Finally, Jian Mu has something to say. You two can have a chat. Yang Yi said and retreated to the side. Jian Mu, who had been standing behind him like an indomitable sword, took a step forward and stood in front of Zhuan. He stared at Zhuan for a while with a ruthless gaze, then said, Go to the Burning Heaven sect and bring Chen Shui back. I'll wait for you in the Central Plains. Zhuan was taken aback, then smiled. Although Jian Mu's words were cold and even a little impolite, he could feel the former's concern for Mu Chenshue. Even if you don't say it, I'll bring her back. Zhuan muttered in a low voice. His gaze pierced through the 9 nether heaven and looked in the direction of the southern wilderness. His eyes were filled with determination. Ryuka's influence had already grown, and its power had even surpassed the Blue Dragon Hall. The Burning Heaven sect's power was not much greater than the Blue Dragon Hall's. The most important thing was that Zhou Tianzong's cultivation was quite high. He was already a powerful saint in the Yang Sky sacred realm. I hope so. If you can't bring Chen Shui back, I, Jian Mu, will find you even if you have to go to the ends of the earth. If Chen Shui is injured because of you, I'll cut you down no matter where you are. After saying this, Jian Mu slowly retreated behind Yang Yi, no longer looking at Zhuan. Junior apprentice brother Zhuan, I'm sure we'll meet again in the Central Plains. Yang Yi let out a long laugh. With a wave of his sleeve, the space in front of him crumbled. After that, Yang Yi brought Jian Mu along and stepped into the space tunnel. His figure quickly disappeared. Jian Mu's temper is still so bad. Seeing the two disappear, Zhuan shook his head and laughed. Although Jian Mu did not give him any face, he knew that Jian Mu did not have any ill intentions towards him. Jian Mu even gave up his chance to become a saint and gave his golden patterns to Zhuan, allowing Xiao He to successfully transform. This Yang Yi is very powerful. I'm afraid he's a disciple or an expert of some great force in the Central Plains. Xiao He transformed back into Xiao He's dog form and squatted on Zhuowen's shoulder. Xiao He's eyes were rolling around. Yes, Yang Yi and Yuan Ji are his aliases. I really don't know his true identity. Zhuan shook his head and laughed. Since Yang Yi was unwilling to reveal his origin, he could not force him to say it. When you reach the Central Plains, you will definitely come into contact with him again. At that time, you will know his true identity, Xiao He said lazily. Zhuowen nodded slightly. As long as he continued to move forward and climb the peak of the martial way, all the mysteries would eventually appear. Let's summon Martial Granduncle Yan Ji and the others first. With that, Yuan waved his sleeve and the door of the Azure Dragon Hall opened again. 6 figures rushed out. These 6 figures were naturally Yan Ji, Jiang Xian, Wen Bai, and the 3 demon saints led by Zhao Jun. When the 6 of them came out, their eyes were confused. After Zhuan took them into the Azure Dragon Hall, he immediately cut off the connection between the Azure Dragon Hall and the outside world. Therefore, the 6 of them did not know what had happened in the outside world. Naturally, the 6 of them did not know about Yang Yi. Yun, where is Sky Worm? Yan Ji looked around and asked curiously. He has been taken away, Zhuowen answered ambiguously. Taken away? Could it be Lord Chao Rong? Yan Ji asked in shock. Zhuowen rubbed his nose and said without blushing, You can say that. Later on, the reinforcements from the Primal Chaos Temple came and sealed the Sky Worm in one fell swoop before taking it away. So it was the people from the Primal Chaos Temple. No wonder. Hearing Zhuowen's nonsense, Yan Ji and the others nodded. Of course, when Yan Ji and the others returned to their respective nether realms, they would soon know the truth. After all, the matter of Yang Yi and Zhuan working together to seal the Sky Worm was already known to everyone in the 9 nether realm. Since the matter of the Sky Worm is over, I will return to the demon nether realm to tidy up. Hearing that the Sky Worm had been completely sealed, Zhao Jun's eyes were indifferent. After saying this, she ignored Zhuan and Yan Ji and left 9 nether heaven. Zhuan, what do you plan to do next? At this moment, Yan Ji's face was also relaxed as he asked Zhuan. Settle down the Ryuka. In the future, there will be no Blue Dragon Hall in the Dragon Nether Realm, only Ryuka, Zhuan said indifferently. Yan Ji's eyes turned cold. Previously, Zhuan had summoned close to 10,000 Ryuka disciples, including many saints and half-saints. In an instant, they had broken into the Blue Dragon Hall's headquarters and wiped out the Blue Dragon Hall. Most likely, the Blue Dragon Hall was now a pile of ruins. The overlord of the 9 nether realm had ended up in such a state. It was indeed lamentable. The Night Nether Realm and Martial Nether Realm have already collapsed in the previous battle. Now, there are only 7 Nether Realm small worlds left in the 9 Nether Realm, Zhuan said with a smile. What? The Night Nether Realm and Martial Nether Realm have been destroyed? Yan Ji's eyes were filled with shock as he turned to look in the direction of the Night Nether Realm and Martial Nether Realm. Indeed, there was only dust and rubble left. There were no traces of the 2 nether realms. The Heavenly Worm is indeed a disaster. If the Heavenly Worm continues to wreak havoc, I'm afraid the 9 nether realms will be finished. Yan Ji sighed. At the same time, he was glad that nothing had happened to the Divine Nether Realm in this disaster. That's right. The Heavenly Worm is a disaster. Zhuan also sighed and said, Martial Granduncle Yan Ji, I'll bring the Ryuka to the Dragon Nether Realm first. In the future, the Dragon Nether Realm will be our Ryuka's base. Go ahead. If you need any help, feel free to come to the Divine Nether Realm to find me. As long as it's within my power, the Divine Institute will definitely help, Yan Ji said with a smile. Zhuan cupped his hands and summoned the Blue Dragon Hall into his sleeves. With a leap, he landed in the Dragon Nether Realm. The Dragon Nether Realm was several times larger than the Divine Nether Realm. Although many Ryuka martial artists had descended, they were only targeting the Blue Dragon Hall. The Ryuka did not wantonly destroy the other living beings in the Dragon Nether Realm. Hence, the Dragon Nether Realm did not look as desolate as one would expect. When Juan landed in the Dragon Nether Realm, countless living beings inside trembled. Some even knelt on the ground, not daring to look at Juan. Many living beings in the Dragon Nether Realm had seen the battle in the Nine Nether Heaven clearly. They knew just how terrifying the power of this harmless youth before them was. Even the nearly 10,000 martial artists that had descended were sent by this youth with a wave of his hand. From then on, the Blue Dragon Hall had been razed to the ground and disappeared. Zhuowen didn't care about the terrified beings in the Dragon Wasteland. He flew all the way and landed at the Azure Dragon Hall's headquarters. Looking down at the ruins below, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. At this moment, the Blue Dragon Hall's ruins were covered in blood and corpses. All the disciples of the Blue Dragon Hall had been killed by the Ryuka martial artists that Juan had sent out. Whoosh! You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.